good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, May 27, 2021, and we're here for a work session. And as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Frank, can you please take the lead?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Frank. We have two announcements today. First of all, Town Hall is open. All of our offices are open. The only limitation we have is the senior center. They're going to phase in the reopening. On Monday, they got approval from the state to reopen. We had to go to the state, to the Department of Aging to get approval, and Kelly Touchy did a great job submitting their plans. And so if you are interested in the meals program or attending in-person meals, just please call. There's going to be social distancing is definitely a must, and everything else is open. I spoke to my counterparts, and Brookhaven was going to be opening sometime in June, and South Hall is still closed, and they're going to be opening sometime in June, and Southampton is starting to reopen. I'm glad to report that we're the first town to be fully open in the East End.
Good.
And again, I have to, the council was always here, having in-person meetings, and no other town had it. So I commend you for having that, taking that effort to come in for the in-person meetings. And if there is a hot topic that arises, we're gonna need to social distance for 15 people at a time. We'll have the TV outside available, and as always, and as other towns are doing, the meetings are open through Zoom.
No, that's not exactly true. We did go a long period of time where we had no meetings. But
Okay, you know,
that's
Catherine,
not
there was-
exactly true.
okay, as far as truth, I just want to state that there was a governor's mandate to close all facilities, and we followed them. And we were under a pandemic, people were dying, we didn't know the extent of it. And so we're here and we're open and we're gonna move forward.
But I just think the truth matters.
Okay, this is not the time to run your political campaign, this is the public's time
This
for
is-
us to.
By the way, this is my
engage.
job as a council person.
So, okay, let's just move on, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for that little spat there. We're gonna move on forward. It's 10:15 and we have a quite full agenda. This weekend is Memorial Day, and I encourage everyone to come down to Main Street for the Memorial Day Parade on May 31st at 9 a.m. Last year, unfortunately, the parade was canceled due to the governor's orders and COVID-19 mandatory screenings and requirements and limitation of public gatherings. And everything's open now, and we're going to move forward. And I'm very, very pleased that this parade is taking off. I'll be attending. I encourage the public to attend. This is something that will show support for our veterans. And apparently we're walking down Main Street and visiting all the banners and
Yes.
relaying a wreath.
Yep.
You want to say a few words since you're putting together this effort?
I just want to commend Tom Nijhan has worked tirelessly, he's worked with the VFW as well as the American Legion, and so together they have always planned this parade. Tom is also on our Veterans Advisory Committee, and so there's an extreme level of excitement for us to finally be able to gather. We promise we'll still ask the public to gather in social distance, but we know that we can hold a parade in a nice, safe manner. And what's even more exciting is that we've just mildly adjusted the parade route so that we can pass our hometown hero banners for the length of our parade, so that we'll have some veterans that will be with us in the parade, and we'll have the Junior ROTC program as well as other organizations. So perhaps there'll be a return to somewhat of normalcy, but it's still in a social distance manner. But it's exciting, and we'll get to show off those hometown hero banners that keep getting added to Main Street. So very proud of it.
And I want to say thank you to our Veterans Committee. They do an amazing job. And also, I'd like to just state that in Riverhead, we really do love our parades.
This one in particular, I
Yes.
knew last year, a lot of people were upset we couldn't have it, and this really is probably the most meaningful parade we have in town, and Tom does a great job putting this together every year. And from what I hear, people are gonna gather, family members are gonna gather by their
Yes,
family
respective
member's
families.
banner for the parade. So this is a parade that, it's a long distance, so people are spread out, you know, over the course of the parade. We see people on the side of the road, but it'll be extra special to come through Main Street to see the family members by the banner. So I'm really looking forward to this.
I actually remember marching in this parade when I was 5 as a brownie.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and it's not the only thing that's gonna be reopening. We're working, I know, Tim, you're working on Live at 25.
Yes.
It's gonna be a modified version, but,
Well, modified with social distance involved, but we're gonna have 4 events. The first one kicking off with the fireworks downtown, and I will, in another meeting, I'll give you the dates of those events, but we're looking forward to it. The businesses are really looking forward to it, to open up and to get people back in, and it's gonna be a great time. We're looking forward to a lot of events. The cardboard boat race is back this year.
yes, I can't wait.
Um,
that's a favorite of
Halloween with
mine.
the coffin races, you know,
Jay, watch
there's
out.
a lot of good stuff coming back, so it's good to get back to the norm.
Yes, and we'll have to run that through, I think you guys are creating plans, and we're gonna run
Yes.
it through the state. Usually there is not gonna be a problem, so, and that's good. And it's only the beginning as we move forward to our new normal.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so today for our first discussion, we have Pete Scalzo, matter surrounding chapter 255, event for race track, Knott Street at EPCAL Drag Racing Series. And I'm gonna ask Dawn Thomas, our CDA director, to come forward, to join us in this discussion. Dawn, can you please come forward?
What-
Wherever you
yeah,
feel
while
comfortable.
Dawn's
Can I
coming-
finish?
yeah, sure.
hold on a
I had
second.
one announcement.
Let me work the meeting, so everybody will get a chance to speak, I promise you that. Ken, I think that you have been, working with, Mr. Scalzo to ensure that we meet all the
Yes.
parameters in this regard.
So we have a number of conversations this week. Pete Scalzo, he's joining us so he can see us on Zoom now, has really proven himself an expert in this industry, and his knowledge has been verified by many other people that we've had an opportunity to speak to over the last week, just to confirm, and so I have great confidence in him. One of the concerning issues was that we were concerned about any nesting birds, and I think initially he was formulating a great plan to keep them well protected, but he has reached out to us and he's going above and beyond that, and he's adjusted his dates so that we will not be gathering up there in any type of format during nesting season. And so we've turned our dates and he's adjusted them. So now he's gonna begin, according to, I did speak to the DEC, the nesting dates kind of conclude around August 16th. And so we're gonna not start till the following weekend, so we make sure that we're working together between man and nature. And so he's going to start his series. He's adjusted his dates to August 21st.
Okay.
And so I think that is great, and I really appreciate him being more accommodating. But during that whole process, I will say that Pete has been very impressive because he's continuously asked us, what else can I do? What else can I do to alleviate concerns? Is there any other concerns? And he has addressed everything, and he's been very impressive. I'll let him talk more about himself, and I'll let Dawn to speak about it, by all means, but it's been a very impressive week working with you.
And I just want to add, Dawn, if you could give me a second before we begin, and Catherine jump in when you want, Ken. I did send him an email last week, and he quickly responded, and we want to make sure that all Riverhead residents have priority. There is a big interest here in Riverhead. We've received a tremendous amount of support for this, and of course, we have received support against it, and that's why we're here, and that's why you have open meetings and you have work sessions to discuss this. And he's assured me that he's gonna have a system in place, and I look forward, Mr. Scalzo, when you relate to me what system you're gonna have in place, but Riverhead residents will have priority. And I thank you for agreeing to that. You did not hesitate when I asked you, and we're gonna move forward. And Catherine, did you have something to say?
Yeah, actually, I was just trying to make an announcement when you were doing announcements. I did want to announce, and it was in the paper, that the Anti-Bias Task Force is having an event, it's called Synergy. It's an opportunity for people in the community to speak with people on our police department. That's going to be held via Zoom, and it's on June 7th at 7 p.m.
Catherine, I also think that there's, some type of training that, a memo was sent out to, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Anti-bias, you might wanna inform the because a lot of it's for, employees, and a lot of our employees live in town, so and now that we're having this meeting,
Yeah, I mean, the town board approved a resolution, the whole town board approved a resolution for us to have, the Anti-Bias Task Force had requested that we have this implicit bias training. And, you know, it's been done in Southampton, Southold, and Suffolk County did it as well. So they were adding it to Riverhead, and an email was sent out asking employees to attend sessions. There are sessions in the day and there are sessions at night. And then I believe as those sessions fill up, it will be extended to other groups in the community, anyone that deals with the public.
right, and what are the times, is it a 1-day, 2-day training session?
It's 3 sessions it's 3 sessions from 10 to 12
Okay.
during the day, and then it is offered on 3 different evenings, as well. And, you know, people have an opportunity to decide whether they would like to take it. I think it's a good thing, and they have an opportunity to decide which session works best for their schedule.
So it's 3 sessions, one individual has to attend 3 separate sessions, or,
That's correct.
okay, so it's a series of 3 modules?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Each module is very different.
Okay, yeah.
And anyone who wants to look into it can also, you know, as I said, it was done in the other towns as well.
Is it open to the public? That would be great.
I think first they have the first session, it's 50, a limit of 50 people, and then I think if they have slots open, obviously they will open it up. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Supervisor, before we begin with Mr. Scalzo, I just want to take a moment because I think that, just for clarity for people that are following, and that there's obviously a lot of interest and some concerns as well, but there are 2 separate drag racing events. So first, speaking this morning is going to be Mr. Scalzo, and so he's going to talk about his particular event, but his event is different from the other event that's listed under Scramble, and we are going to talk about Scramble later today as well, during when we do the resolutions, because they've also made some adjustments. So I just wanted so that we're clear, these are 2 separate events, and I'll yield the floor to Dawn.
Yeah, I think, other than
Good
the
morning,
fact that,
Dawn.
good morning, everyone.
How are you?
Mr. Scalzo had come to us, I guess, in the late winter and
Yes,
just
he
expressed
did.
interest, and we thought, you know, if the board is willing and the public is interested to do something fun and temporary. I know there's a lot of racing enthusiasts in town, so we started down that path, and Mr. Scalzo's been fantastic. I'll turn it over to you. You can just give a brief overview of your event, and then we can, I guess, answer any questions.
Sure. Good morning, Pete.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
morning, sir.
I want to thank Councilman, Ms. Thomas, for the kind remarks, and you, Supervisor, as you folks remember, back on April 19th, I did attend personally a work session, and at that time, I was able to produce a video with testimonials from Chief of Police, a mayor, representative from the sanctioning body, the Beat the Heat representative, Jose Ayala, and so I'm very proud of my background and what I've done in the past, and I just, at this point, want to comment on a number of the issues that were brought up by the public, rightfully so, questions, at the town board meeting back on the 19th. And first off, the issues on safety. And that has been something that throughout my whole career of promoting over 350 events, safety is number one. And I am proud to say I have never, ever had a claim paid out to a racer or spectator over all those times, or all those events. My experience relating directly to what I'm proposing here at EPCAL is drag racing. Now, my event is a 1/8 mile drag strip which has limited speeds, and it has limited quickness as far as the elapsed time permitted. And also, the most important thing is all vehicles must have mufflers. Now, addressing some of the concerns, again, from the public as far as the type of safety barriers, etc., the best way I can respond to that is we will be sanctioned by the National Hot Rod Association. They've been around for over 70 years. My past of over 178 sanctioned motorsports events, not only NHRA, but IHRA, another fine organization, they have to comply with very strict insurance regulations. The two major companies are K&K Underwriters and also Safehold, which formerly the name was Wells Fargo. And we're talking about very, very involved safety protocol. In other words, we will have to bring in over 2,000 feet of highway concrete barriers. That'll be the protection for the spectators. In addition to that, we will have over 1,500 feet of crowd control metal fencing that will separate the crowd from being too close to the concrete safety barrier. So basically, bottom line, I mean, I've been around a long time, I've done all these events, and everything that we do will comply with the strict safety protocol that these insurance companies require. The proposal that I'm making is for an 8-mile track utilizing a portion of the 7,000-foot runway. I'm not talking about doing anything on the 10,000-foot runway. This is strictly 660 feet of actual racing surface on the portion of the 7,000-foot runway. As I looked at the runway and I envisioned where the actual hot track is what we refer to will be, the racing surface is better than probably most of the other racetracks that I've been at, and I've had 4 in the past. So any concerns that folks might have as far as the safety or the condition of the runway, I can assure you there is no problem at all. All spectator viewing, parking, racer, pit area will strictly be on concrete or asphalt, never on any grass areas. And I guess the noise. Now, noise is an issue. I can't blame the local residents being concerned about the noise, and here's how I would answer that. I, along with many other people, over the past years, going all the way back to Sean Walter's day when he was supervisor, have been trying to get drag racing at EPCAL. And myself included and the others, we all spoke about bringing in, quote, drag racing. Now that means that we're going to bring in the dragsters and the altered, the funny cars, and those are loud. This proposal is not talking about any of that. This proposal, this 255, is strictly addressing a temporary 1/8 mile drag strip that vehicles must have mufflers, so there will not be a noise issue at all. And anybody that comes, what happens if somebody goes through tech, which we will have, of course, and they come to the starting line and they took the muffler off. Well, it's obvious they're gone. We can hear that. We are so concerned about issues that the public has with noise that we will be on top of that. And again, what we're asking for is this permit to be able to operate, to show you the merits of what drag racing is all about. I'm not saying that we're looking, or I personally am looking for a change in zoning or something that should continue forever at EPCAL. No, that's not what this is all about. Let's just give me the opportunity to show you and to show the public what can be done and the type of activity that drag racing is. And one other thing, and then I would welcome any questions. The municipalities, including, of course, Riverhead, do a wonderful job of providing sports activity for the public. In other words, ball sports, tennis, basketball, baseball fields, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody is providing anything, and rightfully so, it's not your job, for something that they're talking about, which is, there's a lot of kids out there that are not into the motorsport, of the ball sports, but they sure love their motorsports. That's what I'm looking to do. Let me show you the merits of what this could be, again, on a very temporary basis.
Pete, I also want you, if possible, you had mentioned in the past of some type of, effort that you had with the law enforcement officers that was very successful. I think it's something, I think it'll involve law enforcement, it'll involve the youth, which is very important. We don't have programs for youth, something that I've been trying to work. My son's not here, I built a home for him to live when he came back from college, and he's not here. He had to go back where he went to college, and that's where he's working, in Albany. So I think that that's something that, we should discuss, because it may be something that will engage the community further.
Well, thank you, Supervisor, for bringing that up. Back in when I opened up my racetrack back in '07 in Miami, Florida, it was called County Line Dragway. A very similar situation. It was an abandoned airport runway that actually was owned by the county. When I heard that they were going to turn it into a rock pit, I asked them, give me a temporary deal where I can come in and I can show you what I can do as far as a drag strip, because Miami had a terrible, terrible problem right outside the front gate with the illegal street drag racing. So I was given this temporary use of the runway, and one of the events, 2 or 3 days after I opened the first event, a local police officer from Medley, Florida, came to approach me, Officer Ayala, and he said, Pete, are you familiar with the Beat the Heat organization? I said, no, officer, I'm not. And so then he explained it to me. Bottom line is the Beat the Heat is an organization that comprises of off-duty police officers that actually come out and race against the public. Now, they don't use a police car that is currently in operation. What they'll use is they'll paint up many times different organizations around the country or different locations. They'll take a car that they've got maybe out of the drug forfeiture. In Jose's case, it was a Camaro. They paint it up to look like a race car, the sirens and all, and they come out and race against the kids or any of the adults, whoever. At those events, if you be the police officer, we give you a T-shirt that says, I beat the heat. Now, that's
Beat the
all
heat?
fine.
I love it.
And I will tell you, I was offered $100 for one of those T-shirts, and no, you have to earn it. But here's the thing, it's not only the fun of somebody racing against the police officer and realizing, wow, at the end of this race, I'm not going to get tasered and go to jail. No, what this is the police officers are getting together with the public, and they're saying to the public, look, I'm a gearhead like you are. You do not do this activity on the street. This is where you do it. And they also have the opportunity to speak to kids, young kids, that the horror of illegal street racing, the drugs, the reason for staying in school, it is, I could spend $1 million on trying to get publicity from the media. However, these events, I get millions of dollars worth of free publicity because it is such a welcome event. And yes, we will have, now, oh, by the way, Officer Ayala is now Sergeant Ayala. I take the credit, I think, because he got involved with me with the and that's not true. But another thing is, of my 4 racetracks that I've operated, Sergeant Ayala and the Beat the Heat organization have been to every single one of them. It's a wonderful, it's a national organization, and we're going to be proud to have them at EPCAM.
So you created a safe haven for them to gather, to hold these events, and at the same point, it's awesome public interaction between the citizens and the police department as well.
Yes, sir.
And it engages the youth, and the community and families.
So I think racing is just one of those activities that you can enjoy from being a very young person to a very old person. And I don't know if I mentioned to Pete, but my dad said he's gonna build me a car now so I can race. So I'll be
And
a-
if I can make one other comment to that, you know, look, Riverhead Raceway they've been there forever. They do a wonderful job of providing entertainment for the residents of Riverhead. You know, in the past, we've been compared, somebody at one point said, well, why do you need a drag strip? You have Riverhead Raceway. Again, Riverhead Raceway does a wonderful job, but it's totally different. That's a NASCAR oval track. We are a drag strip. But having said all that, the other point I want to make, and that is that you can come out with any vehicle. We basically say you run what you brung. So if you have like you board members, you could afford it, you have new Bentley convertibles and Rolls Royces and all, us regular poor people out there, you can bring anything out there, your SUV, your Volkswagen, whatever it might be, and you can race the mommy grocery getter. That's the other fun thing about it, and it really gets the public involved in the racing, and also kids. Junior drags start as young as 6 years old, and they're out there racing on the track.
Time to have some fun.
Yeah. Well, I commend all your efforts. It has been nice just working with you for the last week as we would welcome anybody with a business adventure into town hall. And I'm also going to commend our town attorney has worked tirelessly on these
Yes, he has.
projects. Our fire marshal, police department as well. I know Lieutenant Frost has been in communication. So safety has been the top priority. And I have been assured by people that have had other venues with you, Mr. Scoswell, that if it ain't safe, Pete's not gonna allow it to happen. And so
Yes.
I firmly believe that that is true. And I also commend you for again adjusting your dates to accommodate potential bird nestings in nature and allowing things to continue to flourish up there at APCAL. And so I will also say thank you to John Turner, who pointed out from the Seatuck Environmental Association about those concerns. And we were able to talk to the DEC and learn a little bit more about it and the time frame and the nesting. And I think we've really addressed so many concerns over the past week, and we have a great level of comfort now. I don't know if Bob, if you had anything you wanna
I do
mention?
have a couple of follow-up questions. You mentioned the 2007 Miami County Line location, and earlier before that you said you have done 4 prior locations. Can you disclose what all of those are, and if there is a contact or reference so that if the town or I want to speak to them, we can?
Sure. From County Line Dragway, I had bought and then sold the Bluegrass Raceway, which was in Owensville, Kentucky. I also owned Cherokee Raceway, which was in Rogersville, Tennessee. And then the last event, the last venue that I had, which was the video that I showed when I was at the April 19th work session, was Green Cove Dragway in Green Cove Springs, Florida. And yes, I'd be happy to provide you with contacts at all of those. And again, I want to reference that video that I'm so proud of that I showed, which gave the testimonials from all many of the local representatives from those areas. One last thing, as far as the Green Cove Dragway racetrack that I had a year-to-year lease at Green Cove. Unfortunately, my lease was not renewed because of all things Volkswagen. What does Volkswagen have to do with drag racing? Well, again, a year-to-year lease. Volkswagen, if you remember, they had something called the Dieselgate, where they misrepresented on the emissions that the diesels put out. And the Volkswagen Corporation had to take these cars back from the public if they were going to continue selling cars in the States. So the Volkswagen were looking for locations all over the country. Unfortunately, one of the locations they were looking for was my Green Cove Dragway. They were paying more per month that I was paying all year, and that's why we're no longer running at the Green Cove. But at these facilities, I will tell you one other thing. At the time, Mayor Van Royal, would you respect this, who was the mayor of Green Cove Springs, came to one of my events at the Green Cove Dragway. He pulled me to the side and he said, "Pete, you have more kids at this event than we have at our Little League games. Congratulations." And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I actually knew an attorney who was part of that Dieselgate. I think he ended up making more money at the end of the process than what he anticipated, so he was kind of happy.
Yes.
Second question is the grasslands question, which is how will you prevent anyone from walking onto the grasslands, inadvertently going onto the grasslands in order to satisfy DEC and you know, any questions with respect to the grassland bird species?
Yes, first off, what we're gonna have, which, because I'm so concerned about this, is, our layout, as I mentioned, includes only the runways and the taxiways. Now, the grassland that we're talking about, again, the area that I'm using is, a small portion of the 7,000-foot runway. Yes, do we have grass in that area? Yes, we do. We'll be able to control that by not only having people monitoring it, we will also have pennants which will show the people not to be walking on the grass area. And by the way, there is no reason for them to walk on the grass area, because my spectator viewing area is strictly, it's all marked, and it will be strictly on the concrete portion of the runway that we're not using. So they are not putting lawn chairs or anything on the grass at all. So there will be nobody on any of the grassland area.
And the last question sort of follows up with the run what you bring mention. I assume you're going to have a spec tent or an inspection booth where all cars have to be inspected before they'll be allowed to participate?
Absolutely, I've done that at every one of my racetracks. It's required by the NHRA, and I must, and the insurance company, but I must add one more thing now, and that is, unfortunately, and I'm going to disappoint some people, but because of my concern of motorcycles, even though a motorcycle has a muffler, unfortunately for the motorcycle folks out there, I'm going to have to put out there right now that we will not allow motorcycles at these events. Wish I could, but I'm very sensitive to making sure that we have no problem with noise. So every vehicle will be inspected, and that's been at the 100 and some odd, 170 some odd events that I've done. Every event I inspect the vehicles, and I think that's part of the reason probably why I have the safety record that I have.
They're not NASCAR race cars. These are street cars with motors.
Yeah.
Mufflers.
Mufflers, excuse me, with obviously motors, with mufflers. I know, I
Yeah.
think that there's a perception out there that these are gonna be racing cars that can go up to 250 miles an hour. They're gonna be souped up, they're gonna be making a tremendous amount of noise, they're not gonna have mufflers. So we wanna ensure that these are, well, you can speak on it, what type of cars they are.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, another thing that I put out there, which is not common at a drag strip, but I put it out there, is we have a limit on the mile per hour, and I've gotten some kickback on that. Did I ever have a limit on mile per hour or how fast it could go at any of my other racetracks? No, but we do have it here, which is 115 miles per hour and nothing faster than 6 seconds. 6 seconds is quick in 660 feet. But again, I put that out there. That's a requirement. That's my safety, that we will not have any competitors that will exceed those limits.
Bob, are all those your questions?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I understand you've reconsidered and you're going to require all participants, drivers to wear helmets too. Is that correct?
Yes, that was brought up when I made my original presentation at the original workshop meeting, and even though that is not required by the insurance company or the NHRA for these type of cars, I've just amended that and put it out there that yes, everybody must have a helmet.
that's all I have.
All right, I have a
I'll
few.
look for the references for the other stuff and we'll share it with the town board.
So I have a few questions.
Thank you, Bob.
You know, I think that we need to be diligent about, all details for anything like this, because we do want it to be successful. So I have a few questions, mostly in-house stuff, and then I have a couple questions, from you. First of all, well, I do have the application in front of me. I didn't know if my board members have the application.
Yes, we do.
With you?
Well, this one.
Not right in front of me, I have it.
Okay. So I do want to ask, because I can't find all of the reports here, I have not seen the planning report. Ken or Bob?
Yeah, I believe planning is still working on the report.
So we don't have the planning report yet.
I don't know the answer to that, but I don't believe it is.
Okay, so we don't have the planning report, but that's something that we can, the planning board, is Jeff here with us here today? He can send it to all of us in an email hopefully today, and we can all review it.
Okay, I think it's important for the application to be complete. I think we need to see the planning report, and, you know, there were concerns from the community, so we do want to look at everything with a careful lens and make sure we're covering all our bases, as I said, to make sure that the event is successful. And Ken, I think you're on code revision, so you know that, it's in our code that it has to have an EIS. Both of these events have to have an EIS. I did want to mention, I do have a copy of that code, actually. It's in the 255 code, it's in two different places, 9C4 and 11B1.
Isn't that planning?
It says
Chapter 255 application.
that it's in the, yeah, it's in the chapter 255,
No, but
if
the
anybody,
planning collected.
That will be,
It's part of planning.
yes, yes.
Yeah, that's part of
Yes.
planning, so when planning
That will be part of,
completes,
my understanding is we're gonna have everything prior to Tuesday's vote.
yes.
I mean, for me, I would have liked to have had it today, because
I
today's the
understand
day
that
we're
too.
looking at the
I don't
application.
disagree with that.
But we
We're not
also-
voting on it today, we're reviewing,
Yeah.
and you'll have time to
Right,
see it
and that's
before
why,
vote.
right, and that's why I'm bringing these things up. So, for both of the events that have been discussed, we need the environmental impact study. It's actually in two locations in the, 255. Also, I don't believe I haven't seen the fire marshal report for this. Do we have the fire marshal report for this?
We don't yet.
So we don't have that yet
He
either.
said he's gonna be working on that.
Yep, He's been working on it all week.
All right, well, I asked also about the insurance with the last event, so now I'm wondering why this event is paying $1,250 per day, and Scramble is actually paying $5,000 per day.
One,
I-
one
you wanna
runway,
tell you what?
one runway, they're using a much shorter piece of one runway. Scramble is using the full length of both runways, so we took the 5,000, split it up to, it was per event, so we made it per day, so it's the same price, it's just based on the usage.
They're paying equal amounts, so one is, so if you're paying, $10,000 for 2 days, that's $5,000 a day. For 2 runways, that means each runway is $2,500 for each runway, and if
Per
you're only
day.
using half a runway, you're paying,
Well, we're doing, and it's, I
So
think
it's half.
2,500 for the weekend, so it's per day, so it's half.
so
All right,
it's
thank you.
it's an equal pay scale for both projects.
And
All
that's
right.
what we've charged other events that have leased the runways. That's the standard fare that we've charged, so.
So also, I mean, just as a matter of the application, because there was so much, you know, people were concerned from the community, I think we need to be proactive. I'm wondering if the application was posted. Is this application? You don't post the application, is there somewhere that the public can see the application or any, so that they can review it?
They can always
If the public
file a form.
foils, they can request that through the FOIL process in my office.
All right.
And keep in mind when foiling it, that these applications have been amended, so you want the current amended application.
Right. Yeah, that's what I asked for, the amended one. Also, on the runway, what are you treating the runway with? I know you treat the runway with some kind of product. What are you treating the runway with?
Yes, we have something that's called well, in the old days it was DH1, now it's PJ1 or strip grip. And what that is it's a traction compound that is used at not only all racetracks around the country, drag strips, but now it's also being used by NASCAR. So I'll be happy to provide the ingredients of the product to the board, and I know there might be concern of environmental concerns, but as I said, it's used all over the country, and be happy to provide you with what those ingredients are so that you can investigate.
One other concern I have, that I had with the, well, I don't know that that refers to this event then, because you're not using both runways, because launcher is on one of the runways. I believe there are flammable materials involved with launcher.
It's not,
That doesn't pertain to this. I can bring that up
yeah,
for
launcher
the
is
other
not
event.
on the runway,
Okay.
they're off the runway. Anyway.
And they're only set
Taxi
10,000.
area, tie-down area.
Can I check, I'm gonna check, Anne Marie, you deal with the EPCAL property regularly through all of your work. Can you just talk a little bit about launcher 1 minute?
Good morning, Emery.
Good morning. So I'm at a disadvantage. I've never reviewed this application, I've never reviewed the plans, so I can't really respond to if it's proximate to any of our licensed areas, unfortunately. I know with the other application, the town attorney shared with me, and I did express concerns to him because both, I believe, runways and taxiways were being proposed. And I just caution that we probably should have something in place for, launcher, and the other one is
Robotics?
Yes. Yes.
Who else do you-
So for this application, I'm at a disadvantage. I've never reviewed.
Well, I can wait and
well-
have you talk when we're at the resolution for the other application if you want. But what I'm asking is if, if you are aware of where the materials are for launcher. They're on the taxiway, right?
Yeah, they have designated sites, and I provided the maps to Bob. I don't know, again, if it's
Bob, can you
germane to
address
this
that then?
application at all.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean-
sorry, Anne Marie.
Yeah, launcher's materials are stored in a container, and there's concrete barriers around it. Again, it's on the taxiway.
Yeah, it's not anywhere near,
it's
and not anywhere
approximately-
near this
It's
location.
approximately 350 feet away from where these racers will be on the 10,000-foot runway, which is not Mr. Scalzo's
Right.
application. Mr. Scalzo is only using the 7,000-foot runway, which has no interaction nor any possibility of being involved with the launcher application at all.
And those are all of my questions that I have at this time. Just in general, I'm looking to make sure we have all the reports before us so that we can properly look at everything and make sure that we're being proactive in covering all our bases on everything.
Okay, so I think that, Tim, did you want to add anything, Frank?
No, I'm really happy to hear that he has the helmets now. I think that's a good positive thing for the racers and for everybody. But it really sounds like it's going to be a great event, and I'm looking forward to attending myself.
So am I, possibly racing.
Just in looking around and talking to people and trying to find out about Pete and his background, it was pointed out to me that it's very hard to get the backing from the NHRA, and if you have the backing from it, you know what you're doing. Just don't hand them out in a box of cereal. You really have to know the sport and prove yourself to be able to be backed by the NHRA, and Mr. Scalzo has done that, so I appreciate that.
So just to go
Councilman-
back, sorry, Mr. Scalzo, I forgot, I did have one question, and I think now that Mr. Murphy's here, perhaps he can address that. Mr. Murphy, I was asking about the planning report for this event. I haven't seen the planning report, and as part of that, I did want to ask, because the dates do encompass Labor Day and 9/11, so I did want to ask about a traffic study, since those are really, we know those are really heavily trafficked times out here. So a couple things. I was looking for the planning report, the fire marshal report, and then whether, you know, you're looking at a traffic report because it does encompass our busy times of year.
Good morning, everyone. I've been following drag racing since I was 7 years old. I went to more drag races with my father at Englishtown Raceway than I did Yankee games, so I know drag racing very well. This is not an event like you would see at a drag strip. This is with street legal cars with mufflers on them. An 8th mile track, you cannot get up to speed very, very quickly. It's not like a true quarter-mile race where they can get up to speed. As soon as you launch, you're at the finish line and you have to shut down. So it's not a dangerous event or a loud event like you would with a typical spectator event that you would at an NHRA sanctioned event, like in a quarter mile. Typically, I do not prepare planning reports. The only time I've ever commented on applications is in an internal memo or email to the town attorney's office and the board. For example, with the running races over at Calverton, I would send a memo to Bob and say, these are my questions. In that case, I had runners going through wetland areas. I raised that as a question. That was really the extent of my report. So I never prepared a formal report to the board on any special event application.
Okay, so, and I understand, we cannot move away from the focus. This is a simple 255 application.
Right.
This is
temporary.
not approving a site plan that we have to go and do SECRA, an EIF, a planning board. And this, we're here to discuss. We're hoping to bring this up on June 2nd for vote. And at any time, if there's any reports, and I'm sure the fire marshal, Catherine, will have the fire marshal's report, we can still move forward. We don't have to have everything now. This event is taking place on 8/21st, and Mr. Scalzo was great enough to move it to deal with some of the concerns of the community. So we still have quite a amount of time to get whatever reports that we need. And again, it's an application to the town, provided to the police chief, provided to the board, provided to the supervisor for review and for discussion at a work session. So I understand the planning board is already taxed. We just have lost, we're about to lose a planner, and we're working with you on enhancing the planning department. It doesn't normally require it, Catherine, so we will get you the fire marshal report. I understand he's working on it tonight and today.
He's been working.
So it's just a matter of time. So I think that, just to recap, I know we spent a lot of time, and I want to thank you, Councilman Rothwell, for assisting me, to help move this forward. And Tim has chimed in, and everyone else, to move this forward. I think it's something for our community, as I said before, for our youth. It is safe. Mr. Scalzo has an impeccable record. He has never had, how many races have you had, Mr. Scalzo, total, without an incident?
I'm sorry?
How many races in total have you ever heard,
I've
in your lifetime?
I've promoted 178 drag racing events, plus an additional, total of 350 events of all different types. And also, I might add, I'm famous for promoting the last event that Evel Knievel ever jumped at. And to say it again, I have never had a injury claim paid out to a spectator or a racer over all those 350 motorsports events.
So we have an expert here, we have an impeccable record as far as safety, and we also have the insurance company, and we should be mindful that when this event gets insured, all these safety issues, the company doesn't want to pay out. They're going to make sure that they are, that the event is up to par to minimize any claim. And so, looking at that, the fact that we now know that, we did, I think some people did, these are not race cars, these are not NASCAR cars, these are street cars with mufflers. You're gonna have inspection station, we're gonna have a police and a youth competition, it's gonna involve the entire community. You have assured me that you're gonna open up the event to give priority to Riverhead residents. And it's a family event, it's something that it's lacking here, and I think that, I know the resolution is up today, I understand, right? I did see it in
It's
the
on the
packet.
agenda, yeah.
So,
And it's gonna be voted on, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do. However, come the second, the board will decide if they're gonna move this forward together, collectively. That's why there's 5 of us, we decide where we wanna go. And, I think we're gonna just end, anybody want to?
Can we just
add?
ask Jeff, Mr. Murphy, while you're here, just from the planning department's perspective, are there any concerns, or have all your concerns been addressed?
They've all been addressed. I'd just like to address Catherine's concern about the traffic study. Typically, we don't get a traffic impact study like you would with a typical regular development application, but with all the Chapter 255, the larger events, there's always a traffic safety plan that has to be approved by the police chief. So all those traffic-related issues are addressed through the police department, not through planning.
Well, and I'm gonna say again, and certainly I'm not questioning your background in racing. I'm just making sure that I want the event to be successful. I supported the first event. I want the event to be a success, and I think it's important that we have all of the reports before us. What about in the 255 where it actually requires an environmental impact study?
That would be handled through the environmental assessment form, not an environmental impact statement. This is only a temporary event. This is not a full-blown site plan application. This is a temporary event.
I think there's a part of the application is the EAF, and they complete the EAF, and I think, you know, these events, we have quite a few large events in town, the Polish Town Fair, we have the Country Fair, we do a lot, and I think everybody on the board realizes it's all a lot of moving parts. And most of the time, they're volunteers and people who are putting these things together for the community, so, you know, as Mr. Murphy said, they complete the EAF, and if there's any concerns, those get addressed. I don't think there's anything that is gonna require an environmental impact statement. I don't know if the code says
Oh,
that it
it's in the-
requires an environmental.
Yeah, it's in the 255 code, and I mean,
That's something
you know-
that you should really look at, because if an environmental impact statement is required for every 255 application, you will never have another special event in the
it's
town.
actually in 2 places. It is in 2 places.
Yeah, that should be looked
Well,
at
and
by
for
code
me,
revision.
You know, I try to make every decision as a careful decision. I like to review review everything. I am surprised that planning wouldn't be doing a report, and I would like to see a copy of the EAF. I did not get a copy of the EAF.
The EAF is included with the application.
It's part of the
It was
application.
completed, I saw it on the copy that came over to
All
me.
right, well, those are all my questions at this time.
Okay, we also
Thank you very
wanna add, again, if, we do have the festival in the fall, which generates 15,000 people, we have Alive in 25, how many people does that generate?
3,000 to 5,000 people.
At least? Okay, and it's the same application. There's no difference. We've had events in EPCAL, which generated 5,000 people, and again, we're here, everybody's concerned with the safety. And, I think that we should, just end this conversation, unless anybody wants to add, because we have a heavy agenda today. Okay?
Kudos to Councilman Rothwell for
Yes.
spearheading this. This was really a lot, juggling a lot of balls to get it to this point.
Thank you very much. No, it's a pleasure to work with them. I learned a lot, and I would do this for any application, any type. So if any business venture wants to come, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to aid them and walk them through the process. Very gracious man. I thank you, very knowledgeable. It's been impressive to work with you as well, Mrs. Scalzo, so thank you. Thank you, Frank.
One thing, if I can add, I've said it before to municipalities, and I'm gonna say it to you folks. I will make you proud. We will have something that will make the board proud. You'll be happy to have this special event, as short as it will be, but a special event of drag racing to finally show the public what this is all about. And again, I applaud the board for being open to this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Yes, and again, thank you. I know when he presented to us, myself and Dawn, and we said, let's see where we're gonna go with this, and then, things started happening, and then you took the lead. You ran again. Everything I give you, which is a week or 2 later, it's done.
Thank you very much.
And,
Thank you,
we
sir.
look forward to this. And again, there's a resolution today, and then the board is gonna decide on Tuesday, and anything that we have to clean up, we'll do it in the meantime. Catherine will get you the fire report and whatever else that we need. All right, so I'm gonna move forward on this. Again, we have quite a bit of lengthy agenda today, and we wanna make sure that we cover as much as possible, and our next discussion is gonna be matters surrounding marijuana legalization. And I'm gonna ask the Deputy Town Attorney, Anne Marie Prudenti, to join us. Anne Marie has been working endlessly. She's been on supervisors' calls with us. She has been, speaking, to, Theo, she's been on, researching the law, because it's very complicated, it's really not clear in certain components, and she's bringing this now full circle, and, Anne Marie, can you just introduce the topic to the public again, please? And thank you for all
First, I
your
want
work.
to say, hi,
Hi.
that's my joke of the day. Cannabis law was very weak, very weak.
Don't get us in the weeds.
Good morning, Anne Marie.
So, you know, the town board discussed this last work session, so I'm gonna jump right into it. The conversation we had, I went over the timeline again, and under the cannabis law, Article 4, if we're going to opt out, we must do so by a local law, subject to a permissive referendum pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law 24. What that permissive referendum provision provides is that after the adoption of the local law, 10% of the qualified voters in the last, I think, presidential election can petition within 45 days. If a petition is filed challenging the local law to opt out, the town board must move it and place it on the ballot either at the November 2nd election or a special election. A special election is extremely costly, you know, particularly for a town like Riverhead. So in order to meet those, and it has to be, and you have to put it on the ballot 60 days prior to November 2nd. So in order to do that, what we talked about last week was, I did in fact draft a authorization for the town clerk to publish and post the local law to opt out. So that's in your resolution packet today. It schedules the public hearing for the following town board meeting and allows one more meeting time frame, if the town chooses, to adopt that local law opting out at the July 7 meeting. If you go beyond that date, we can't abide by the law and accomplish the goal. And really, you couldn't put it on you wouldn't have enough time to put it on the November 2nd date, and your only alternative would be forced to hold a special. And so the other thing we had talked about pretty extensively at the last work session was if the town did not opt out, and/or if it didn't succeed on the ballot to opt out, time, place, and manner restrictions. And Councilwoman Kent had discussed an opinion and several ideas regarding same. Councilman Hubbard also addressed that issue and highlighted the issue that it's likely that Southampton's not going to opt out, particularly because the Shinnecock Indians are going to be dispensing the marijuana, retailing it. Councilman Bayrod typically comes at it from an agricultural point of view, saying, well, it is going to be commercially grown here, and the laws regarding the ability of an individual, a resident, to grow at home and possess. So we went back and forth. I produced it, the Publish and Post, it's good to go, it's in your packet. I have always said, and I will take whatever direction that you all take, but I felt it was necessary that I do produce it, have it ready for you, So if you want to proceed with the local law, we really have to allow the resolution to go forward to publish and post on June 2nd.
I feel left out, you critiqued everyone but me.
Well, no, so I will say, Councilman Rothwell's position was that he would prefer that we move forward to a public hearing, moving forward with the local law to opt out, because the public hearing would give the public another opportunity to weigh in addition to the survey.
About maintaining the potential to opt out after a public hearing first. So I'd like to hear more from the public, yes.
And I agree, that was my contention all along, and I'm glad, I think we need to hear from the public on both sides. I just hope that we can move forward with the post, with the publishing post. It's important that everyone engages in this effort.
And I also think,
Absolutely.
by having the public here, we're also continuing to educate the public on this, because I think there's still confusion about what we are approving and what we are not approving. You know, it's not up to us to legalize marijuana, we're simply, deciding whether or not we are going to have dispensaries in the town. That's still confusing, because the word is not out in the general public, because people are still asking me, are you legalizing marijuana? It's like, well, I'm not the governor of the state of New York and legislator, that's been done. So I think a public hearing also helps educate.
And I think the order was signed on March 31st of this year?
Correct.
Okay, and so it is a governing order, signed by the governor and applies throughout New York State.
Well,
So marijuana is legal, regardless of where we stand, to smoke marijuana, to grow it in your home, as long as it's certain free plants or whatever. It is, marijuana became legal, and this board had nothing to say in that regard. There were two components on that, is the dispensaries, as you mentioned, where the marijuana is gonna be sold and dispensed. And the second component of it is,
On-site consumption.
on-site consumption, which indicates where is it gonna be smoked and utilized. And I am, and I hope we have the support, it doesn't belong downtown when we're creating a park to engage our family and
Not
our kids.
downtown, not near schools,
A
not
lot
near
of-
churches.
A lot of places
Not in
are
our parks.
choosing, yes, parks, hospitals, the playgrounds, nowhere near the schools. And a lot of, from speaking to other supervisors, they're tending to go to industrial areas. So that's food for thought that's out there, and that's a further discussion that we have to make. So today, we're discussing the resolution and the publishing the post, and it would definitely need the input from the public, so.
Okay, so a couple of things. Anne Marie, can you talk a little bit about the results of the survey? Because you're talking about hearing from the public. The results of the survey were pretty strong. We heard from 1,400 people, I believe, and it was pretty one-sided. So can you just talk, even though it's been public, but since we're having the discussion now, can you talk a little bit about that?
Just a little, because as I reported last work session, I only did a very cursory review. And the supervisor had instructed me, as I informed all of you when I appeared, that the supervisor would give the results of the survey. But my cursory view, I stated to the board that it seemed to be pretty consistent with even the conservative states across the United States, where the votes were coming in 60 to 65% in favor of the retail and on-site. And what I then stated was, I started looking at what I consider the more, for lack of a better word, conservative states, and how they were actually choosing to deal with it. And I cited to you several counties in Michigan, and how they really went after and focused on, after their surveys, they focused on time, place, and manner with, almost in every situation, saturation limits as well.
And I believe the results in Riverhead were like 74% in favor of not opting out, correct?
76.
76, even higher. That's a pretty we heard pretty strongly from our community. I believe that we were, that was a pretty extensive survey, and even I was excited about the Potter book. We had 1,200 people, but the survey was for 1,400. So, my feeling
I'm
was,
going with that.
it was 1,400 people.
Out of a town of 33,000.
That's a
So-
pretty big, that's a pretty good, response from the community. So, I mean, for me, I had said I didn't think we should opt out. I thought instead, we should carefully govern. That is our job. The community has spoken pretty clearly to us, and I'll let my councilmates speak for themselves, but I believe Mr. Hubbard was in agreement and Mr. Bayrock was in agreement.
Yeah, this is only speaking to the publishing folks for the,
Yeah, I understand
hearing,
that, but my feeling is, well, if we ask the public to weigh in, and 1,400 people weighed in, it's almost like we're negating what they said because we're going ahead and moving forward with the opt-out. That's what
I
I,
didn't say
that's
that,
what
I
I
didn't
don't
say we were
understand.
opting out. I said I'd like to hear more from the general
Okay, hold
public,
on.
to have a public
That-
hearing.
Let me just make a point, maybe this is gonna clarify it. I know that we always wanna hear from the public, and that's why we're here, we got elected by the public. To say that, and unfortunately, I'm gonna say this as a PhD, a person who is an expert in research, and I conducted the survey, it was mostly yes and no, because this was a yes and no question, we're either in and we're not. We heard from 1,408 individuals, that is, we have, according to the 2019 census, we have over 33,000 individuals. We only heard from 4.2 individuals. This is why we need the public hearing, and this is why, Anne Marie, I wanted to work on the thing. A survey is only a small avenue, and surveys need to what's called validity. They need validity, which means that you're gonna be able to validate it, that you address your population. We have not addressed our population through a survey. I cannot act on one simple survey with 1,408 individuals and having a population of over 33,000 individuals. It is an avenue to utilize, not an avenue to make legislation. You need to have the biggest spectrum, and you need to address your entire community. And hopefully, this is what this public hearing is about, that we're gonna have individuals Zoom in, come in, write letters, and we have a better perspective. When I was doing my dissertation, completing, if I depending on the survey, I would not fail and I would not have the letters PhD. I would not have validity in my study and I would not go anywhere on it. So I'm urging the public, this is critical, we need to hear from you. 1,408, and not everybody was a resident, so that lowered the, and probably when I was doing some of the statistics, we're probably only talking about here from 2% of the population. When we look at the people who don't live here, the businesses, the individuals who did multiple studies, the individuals who maybe there was a group of individuals who wanted it and they conducted multiple studies. So they're not, each population, each person who submitted the survey may not have accuracy, and we have to make sure that we look at accuracy, and we need to look at the global picture. We need to represent our entire community, and we have to look at the population that is being studied. And again, it's a good indicator to see where people may be going, and let's go and let's be more open, more forward, and engage the entire community.
Well, certainly no one has spoken more throughout my entire time as a town board member about hearing from the people. I feel very strongly that we represent the people, that's who we answer to, and that our community needs to be heard. So, I always have felt strongly with that. My point only was, we did do the survey, and I would certainly want the people that went to the trouble of doing the survey to know that their voice was heard. If we are going to move forward with a public hearing, so be it, that's fine, but I want to make sure that the people who did the survey do know that their voices were heard.
Okay.
And we heard from CAP too, which was
Right.
pretty
Yes, we
helpful
did.
too.
They did. They
Yeah.
were very good.
And CAP
was very
CAP
good.
was excellent,
Yep.
and CAP also made the same points to us that the three of us are saying today.
The argument that 1,400 people aren't enough to hear from in a town of 33,000 people in reality, people, how many are we gonna hear from in the public hearing?
Hopefully a
That's
lot.
what I'm thinking
I
too.
mean, if you hear from 12 people,
Right.
if you hear from 20 people, would be a lot. How does 20 more people change your mind or change what the survey did? The survey had far-reaching powers, far more reaching powers than our public hearing is ever going to have. So in reality, I put a lot into the survey. And I think that was a good selection of people that were interested in the topic. You're gonna hear at the public hearing from the same 12, 15 people.
And hopefully letters,
The
and people
letters
reaching
came
out
to
to
with
us.
the survey, and
Yeah.
that's happened right along, emails, texts, people in the grocery store, I mean, that's what it's all about, and,
I just think that when you have, like, for example, a master plan, you go through many different avenues to collect information, to collect data, and to reach out to as many people as you can. I'm just looking for different avenues, like CAP, like a survey, like a public hearing. So
Absolutely.
that no one can say, you were hasty and you made a decision without being as knowledgeable as you can, and that's all I'm looking for.
And if we publish and post, that's gonna open it up to the public also. That's gonna,
I'm not against doing that.
Yeah.
If you wanna have the public hearing, I will support that. I'm just trying to make a point that I don't think that's gonna weigh in as much as you think it's going to be when you're saying 1,400 people aren't enough to hear from in the town of 33,000. Well, 12 more people at a public hearing is certainly not a valid argument.
And thank you, Mr. Hubbard, I agree with you. I think, I was thinking the same thing, we have 1,400 people that, took the time and went in and weighed in, and you may get, I was thinking there'd probably be like 5, 6 people that would weigh in a public hearing. If we're gonna go ahead and have the public hearing, so be it, that's fine, but I just would like, if we have a survey again, I want the people of Riverhead to know that when you fill in a survey, that we are paying attention, listening to those results.
absolutely. And we're looking at everything in a bigger perspective, in a global, I think, publishing and posting it'll be in printed media, people are hearing it from here, they'll see it on the calendar, so we may get, some more input. I'm also concerned with the senior citizens who don't have access online. And that's a big population here, so that's why Tim, I'm looking at it, not just saying, yes, we did the survey, that's why we did it. It does have somewhat validity, but there are, I'm sure there's a big population out there, especially in our senior population, who weren't able to participate. And some of them are watching, call us, write to us, email us.
Yeah, we've been getting
Show up.
letters right along, so
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah, good.
that's
We
a
have
great
been.
avenue.
Yeah,
We have been getting a lot of
Good.
letters.
Okay, so we're
So-
gonna use everything collectively,
Yep.
and to make, and to, let's go, the resolution is up for, public and post, and we'll hear from the public, we'll continue to hear from the public.
And then the only other idea I have, and perhaps the supervisor could secure permission, the town of Southampton, to Councilman Rothwell's point, a lot of misinformation or lack of information with some members of the public believing that the town is actually able to control the growing operations, the possession, the smoking at home, and those things, which obviously the law it was signed into law on March 31st by the governor. So the law does not give us that ability, but the town of Southampton, on their website, they have like a 12-page document, very short, with pictures and a report, kind of informing the public of what the law is and the limited role that the town can play with respect to opting out. And they obviously put a lot of work and effort into that. It's a really great document, and I wonder if they would allow us to borrow it and just take out Southampton and put it in Riverhead.
Jay has taken a lot of our stuff, especially the
Yeah, but I think we
outside
should
dining,
ask.
and I'll reach out to him, I'm sure
Okay,
that's
great.
not gonna be a problem.
And we should put that online because I thought it read very well.
Good.
It keeps your interest with the pictures and the diagrams.
We work Town of Riverhead works very cohesively with,
Right.
with Scott Russell in South Hall, Jay Snyderman, and Ed, Romaine in Brookhaven. We work very cohesively, and we often share
Great.
stuff, and thank you for bringing that up.
Great.
We will, It'll probably be on the website by today if I get
Okay.
through to them. Thank you. I appreciate all your effort in this. I know it's very complicated, and you're doing a great job bringing this very quickly to where it needs to be.
Great.
You're a marijuana expert.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next discussion with Drew Dillingham, our engineer. He's here to discuss the next item, which is the annual MS4 presentation.
May I be excused?
It's not that bad, I read it.
Drew,
No, this one's not that bad.
No, it's not.
I agree.
Drew,
Interesting
Drew, you're
stuff.
next. Would you wanna come up?
Or you can come
Yes.
sit up front, we have chairs too.
Okay, so Drew, you were next on the agenda.
You should probably come to the podium, Drew.
Hold on a second, let me clarify. Dan, are you gonna be with Drew?
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't see you on the agenda, so I just wanna figure out, so we have a flow.
Yes,
So he's gonna go first, Drew?
yes.
Okay, great.
For your edification, I do an intro every year, Supervisor.
Okay, I didn't know that, good,
Would
perfect.
you like us both to be at the table, whatever you like?
Wherever you feel more comfortable,
Drew, you wanna sit at the table with me? White change,
might change up, right? Dan, thank you for taking the lead yesterday on that.
You're very welcome.
We need to catch up a little bit.
Sure.
Once I was in Wading River, that was it.
No, I understood. Were you able to hear any of it while we were online?
I was with Devin and just shut us down, nothing, couldn't, did you have executive session?
Yes, we did, so I'll give you a full break.
Good, perfect.
I'm suggesting it might be a waste of paper.
What'd you do to him? Do we have this online?
Seems like a Scantron.
It is online, perfect.
I have it opened up.
There will be a test.
Thank you.
I'll take a hard copy too.
So, good morning, Dan and Joe.
Good morning, Supervisor. Comfy, all set? Ready. Okay, here we go. Good morning, council members. This is a required matter of the New York State DEC pursuant to what is known as our Speedies permit. Under New York State Environmental Conservation Law, the town of Riverhead, as well as other New York City and New York State municipalities, were required to assume enforcement actions concerning stormwater management in 2008. Since that time, the town has been actively involved in the stormwater management program, including both construction activities as well as municipal operations. Each year, by way of requirement pursuant to our Speedies permit, the town of Riverhead is required to file what is known as an annual certification report regarding the 6 areas of our particular permit that have to be addressed. Drew is going to address that today with regard to that permit requirement. I do note that, as in past years, the reporting cycle ends on March 9th, 2021. We are required to report our findings to the state of New York by June 1st, hence the reason for today's presentation. Any questions, at least as to what I've covered to this point in time?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Drew. I'll turn it over to you as to the technical reporting requirements and your findings for the year.
Sure. Okay, so, I've given you the reports. They basically summarize 6 minimum control measures that we have to execute. And on the report, it's got a section for each MCM. And the MCMs are, MCM 1 is public outreach, MCM 2 is public participation. This is all in regard to stormwater. MCM 3 is illicit discharges and detection. 4 is construction, 5 is post-construction, and 6 is good housekeeping. If you look in the reports, it's all there as far as the headings. Probably the major thing of note that we did was inspected 20% of our outfalls that outfall stormwater to surface waters. And we only have 52, so we have to check just over 10 this year and report that to the state. I wanted to bring up a case that happened
again, stormwater. 2010 March, I'm sure everyone remembers this. It was a 3-day storm, and I think the general consensus was it was a 50 or 100-year storm. It was less than a 40-year storm. I believe something along the order of 15 inches of rain fell, and the intersection of Horton and Osborne, where the circle is, was completely underwater. You couldn't see anything. So we had Terry Contracting up there with trash pumps, 3 trash pumps pumping for 3 days before we uncovered the circle again. FEMA got involved afterwards, and one of the ideas was to remove all the homes that were in that 40-year floodplain. We were able to, with FEMA help, buy those homes, remove them, and recondition the area with seeds. So we don't have to worry about those anymore. There was one that stayed, but there hasn't been any huge floods since then, so they've been lucky. So we wanted to solve the problem of flooding in case this happened again. Fortunately, it hasn't. We did a design for a 100-year storm in that existing pond between Horton and Osborne. The drainage area stretches almost to the sound, so it's over 2,000 acres. So when you get a long storm, everything contributes, and 2,000 acres is a lot of water. So what we plan to do is install a series of swales which both infiltrated and carried the water down to 2 constructed wetlands that we were going to build, one on each side of Horton's. We would widen the existing pond and plant it with wetlands, and then build another pond on the other side of the road. When all was said and done, the price tag was over $2 million, and FEMA said no way, and that was the end of it. But again, we were able to remove the homes that were totally flooded after the storm. And the other homes are far enough north that if we did have a 100-year flood, they probably wouldn't be in the floodplain.
I remember that storm very well, and it really impacted a lot of the farms between the sound and that area. That drainage basin, though, it seems like it's very capable of handling a large sum of water. Is that true?
We talking about the sand on the south side of the circle?
Yeah, I think there's drainage stone in there too, isn't there?
Underneath, it's mostly sand. There is stone a couple feet down. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, just south of the circle.
That was flooded, though.
Yes, that was flooded, yeah.
That was flooded. And it, again, to this date after that, it has taken care of every storm.
Yeah. I know a lot of farms lost soils and everything else with that 3-day event, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Erosion was terrible.
pretty terrible.
And I remember the community, I remember that when that happened within that community, the community was very upset.
Yeah, people lost their homes,
Right.
lost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you did those, you took care of those things at that time, but then the long-range plan
There is none.
didn't happen?
No. Didn't happen. And it could happen again.
Right.
Obviously, since at that time, 10 years ago was a 40-year storm, now it might be a 25-year storm, because the intensities has increased.
We're seeing more storms.
Seeing more storms, more intense storms. The 100-year storm, when I first started here, was 7.5 inches in 24 hours, and it's increased to over 9 inches in 10 years, so it's definitely significant. Does anyone have any questions on the report itself?
So you're saying that we didn't address the later components, right? The housekeeping and, do we need to move further on this? You're saying we're not addressing certain components of this plan, is that
No,
correct?
we're addressing everything.
No, that was just that one, he was only referring to that one issue that from
Okay,
relating back to the storm that happened in 2010.
Oh, right.
Long-range plan
That was
was
the
never
design,
completed.
No, that has,
But on this
it's not
report,
related to this specific
right,
report.
that's
That
not
was
about this
just a-
report.
Just the case study that happened 10 years ago.
okay.
Right. So just to answer the supervisor's question, right? Based on this report, get your opinion in full compliance with all 6 minimum control measures as required by the state of New York.
That's correct.
Exactly. Good,
Very good.
that's good to
We're
hear.
glad to, I mean, I was looking through the report, well, because we have duck farms and we have got a lot of golf courses and,
Oh, one good thing, we were able to pass a, Peconic Estuary Protection Committee, which I'm a member of. We were able to get a quality assurance program plan passed for the EPA. So now we can sample pretty much whatever waters we want, because we've got a plan to do it, the EPA has already approved. And I think I'm gonna sample some of the creeks that have been closed for so long, because they haven't been sampled since 2006. So it would be nice if the levels of fecal coliform or nitrogen and nitrogen, both of them are prevalent in those, in the creeks like Meeting House Creek and Cases and the other 4.
The DEC doesn't do that?
Since 2006.
That's the last time they did it?
Yeah, and here's the reason. All those creeks are conditionally closed.
Right.
Oh.
No, administratively closed, sorry. It makes a big difference. Administratively closed because they're within what the DEC considers to be the spill zone for the plant, for the sewage treatment plant. So if they have a major spill, all those creeks will be affected. So they're closed just for that reason. They haven't sampled in 15 years, so they have no idea what the water quality is there. So, that's definitely one of the things I'm gonna do.
What does it take for you to sample?
Again, it's all paid for through the state, because the state uses our data. So we'll get sample bottles from, East Setauket, which is the Marine Science Lab. It sample bottles, bring them back. When you get a certain storm, obviously you want stormwater to be in these creeks, because that's what you're sampling for, is stormwater. Once you get a storm, you go out, you collect the samples, and within 24 hours, you have to return them to the lab. And then the lab will give you results a week or 2 later. So if our results pass state standards, we'll be able to at least have a case to say, you know, we haven't had a spill from the sewage treatment plant. The chances of it are really low, and our water quality is high enough that we can open these creeks. It's probably wishful thinking, but it's definitely worth doing, since it's not gonna cost us anything.
Right.
and I know that you, well, I bet was in the Zoom with you, for that committee with Peconic Estuary, a few weeks ago. And I know that you work very closely with Peconic Estuary, because they refer to that a lot, that our engineering department has worked closely with them on several projects.
Peconic Estuary Protection Committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually a chairman of that,
Right, I
so.
know that.
And so does Dan McCormick and Anne Marie. I know that you're attorneys on that, and you guys are doing a
Yeah.
really good job.
Dan's very instrumental.
Yes. Dan is very knowledgeable. He's on the Pine Barren Commission with me, and he does a great
Bless
job.
his soul.
I know, rest his soul. Yes, so he's been doing a great job on our environmental issues.
Thank you.
So, great.
So if no one else has any questions?
Thank you.
Right, we
Anyone
do have to
else?
open it up, I'm sorry, as well as the public as well. The law requires that we elicit public comment if
Sure.
there's any available. Supervisor, thank you.
Okay, great, Dan, thank you. Chip, do we have anyone in the waiting room in this regard to it?
Dan, did you put, it seems like if we were going to have public, why didn't we do it at a town board meeting then?
The law requires us to present it in public in general,
Yeah,
so
it's a
we thought that
standard,
this would be,
But would the public know that they have an opportunity to weigh in?
Well,
Was the word put out about that?
We posted that we would have a public meeting.
Okay, just
Yeah,
because
not a
we
public
don't,
hearing, but a
work
public
sessions, we
presentation.
don't usually weigh in,
No,
so I
we
just
don't.
wanna make sure the public was aware that they had an opportunity to weigh in today.
Absolutely, to issue comments. They can issue comments, even if they haven't, they can see the plan or the report online and issue comments without actually seeing this meeting.
Yeah, can you put that on the website?
It is.
It is on
The
your website.
report is on the website, yeah.
And,
Good.
today, after this meeting, we'll take, this isn't signed yet, the report. I'll sign it and then we'll put it online and it'll stay there until the next one.
So Drew, if they wanna read the report and weigh in, where do they weigh in?
They send comments to our office
To the engineering
and
department?
engineering, yeah.
Which is addressed in the report.
Okay,
Yeah, there's actually a.
And it's on their
address, thanks,
website
Dan.
also.
Yep, you're welcome, yep. The notice, avenue is listed in the actual report, so if they
Good.
wanna contact Joe, all of his information's in there.
Great, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank
You
you.
awake?
Wasn't that bad.
It wasn't bad. He was ready for you, Joe.
I know it was, lots of caffeine.
You always travel with your attorney, wherever you go?
Yeah, right. That was a good try, Joe. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I think it's gonna be our last, discussion item. It's gonna concern, no, actually, we have,
Ray is
we
here.
have, hold on, Ray, but I thought that, one second, let me. Bill, hold on a second before we get, Bill, weren't you supposed to be on the agenda today? Just to discuss briefly the finances of the, town square? I think we missed it.
I know you mentioned that last work session.
Yeah, we were supposed to be on the agenda, that was an oversight, so we're gonna have to add it. Real quickly, this is gonna be just a quick thing on the town square, the payments. So I think we're going to, add that, because we did say that, we did have the discussion. I don't see it here, so we're gonna add it on. We have,
So you're amending the agenda with that?
yes, I am amending it.
Okay, I mean, I like to know about stuff ahead of time, cause I always do my work for it, but, okay.
Okay, well, it's something that I did say publicly that we were gonna discuss it next time in work session. So now, I did speak to you, and, I did speak about it in the last work session, saying that we're gonna discuss it, no, at the town board meeting, I did
That
say
we
we're
would
gonna
discuss
discuss it on this work session, and you were present. And you must have forgotten, Catherine, and.
No, I didn't forget.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, go
it's
ahead,
okay,
Bill.
whatever it is, it's a brief discussion, it's just, how are the, it was brought up at the, town board meeting, how we're gonna pay, and we said that would be a work session decision. So, people forgot to put it on, we're just gonna bring it in, we're gonna amend the agenda, we don't like to amend agendas, and you're right, we like to all have.
No, and this is something rather important, I would have liked to have known, but all right, let's hear what you got to say, Bill.
You know what, I'm gonna give you the option, we'll talk about it the next work session, how's that? Even though we discussed it, we'll give it out, and, it will be on the next work session. And we'll just tell Devin, if you can just tell Devin to make sure that it is on the agenda. Okay? And that way, good. And then, so we're gonna move on to the, and that will be the last.
So that will be a definite item on next week's work session?
Yeah, I said it was gonna be on, it will
Okay.
be on. Yes, it will be on.
There's no work session next week.
That's right.
Whatever, the next work session, we said.
The 17th.
Okay, the next work session. All right, so we're gonna move on to our last discussion, and we have Ray Coyne, our recreation director. And Bill, well, you're not going too far, to discuss, matters surrounding the capital improvement projects. And good morning, Ray, how are you? And we have this online, right, Ray?
I don't know, because I just looked it up this morning.
Do we have this, Devin, we're gonna
Oh,
skip that?
you have it right there?
Okay, we have this,
I wasn't sure that was public, for public dissemination.
okay, so yes, so he's
Bill,
gonna,
is that an internal document?
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't,
this one?
Thank you. You have it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bill, is that correct?
I
Yes,
thought
That's
that,
not to go
I think it should go.
This time
It should go. Yes, thank you. No problem.
Weird, it feels weird.
It does?
Yeah. It's been a while. Feels weird to see all you guys next to each other.
You have a copy for us?
Yeah.
For you?
Of course.
And I guess give one to Tim?
Give one to Tim.
We share.
Maybe I'll give it to Tim, I don't know. Yeah, I got it.
During the press break, I would like to welcome Alec to the boardroom and for covering
Yes.
Town Hall. Alec is a new reporter with Riverhead Local, and I think we're gonna see his face here quite often, so.
Good.
Welcome, and you'll get sick of us
We
real
saw your
quick.
first few articles.
Yes.
And he's a hometown guy.
Good.
Grew up in Riverhead, went to college, and he's back, which is always a good story.
It's good to be back employed in your own town.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Ready for me?
yes, go ahead.
Okay,
What's that?
I had asked, but we had to make a few changes in the capital project priority list based on a few items, factors. So I had asked Bill the other day if he can set up a transfer of the remaining balance of park and rec fees into an account for the following items that you see in tan at the top here. Signs, that's ready to go. We already got a PO for that, and we're working with Weedell Signs. We're happy to be working with Weedell Signs. We're getting that going. The pickleball courts, that's the one at Veterans Park. We had the majority of the money for it. We just needed a little bit more. The quote from Land Tech was 63. We had about 58 in there. So we just wanted to, we want to get that going because that is open land. We're not going to disturb anybody as far as playing.
Okay.
We recently discovered, and it's been building up, that the playground at Iron Pier Beach is beginning to be a dangerous thing for the kids to go on. It's just the wear and tear on it from the water has been really tough, and
Water is brutal.
yeah. So it came to our, we've been monitoring it the last year, and then when we went to inspect it again at the beginning of this year, it's in really bad shape. It's got to be pulled out. And the one thing I don't want to do, especially that Memorial Day weekend's coming up, and we're opening the beaches, is to remove the playground and not have anything for the kids to play on. So I moved this to priority 1. We already have a quote from American Rec. They're on the contract, and we can probably get it going within the month and get that one out and put the brand new one in. And the last portion I moved up because there was some excess money in the first round, was the dog park water. And I know that's something we've been discussing for a while, and that's something we want to get done as soon as possible. What we did move down were the Bayberry basketball court, the Stotsky tennis court, Stotsky basketball court, all the courts. Mainly because what's going on with the courts with the tiles, what's happening is the contractors will come in and they say, well, we can't see underneath it. We can't give you an accurate quote unless we pull them up. And so we tried one route saying, all right, give us the full amount of how much it would cost if you were to do everything. And the quote was just too much money. And we just said, you know, we can't do that. So it's not ideal to pull up the courts now while we're in season. So we're going to wait for Labor Day. And then we're going to go ahead and pull up the tiles at that point, get the accurate number, and then do the resurfacing at that point. I mean, they're not in terrible shape. They're in good shape. We just wanted to get this done. And the same thing for the other courts. So that being said, the capital reserve funds, that's something the town board would have to vote on if we were to get that for Parks and Recreation Parks and Recreation, and the community benefit fund. I'm not sure what the status of that is, so that we push the projects down to follow that. So we have some time for that. So I'm asking the town board if they can approve the transfers for the pickleball courts, the playground, and the dog park. I brought the resolutions with me, Bill's office, I gave it to him last night, and they got it done for me this morning. I really appreciate that. If I could show it to the board, if you're willing to sign this now, if you want to wait to the meeting, the faster I can get this going, the faster they can get this done. So especially the Iron Pier Playground, I wanted to really get in. It takes a month for it to ship, and I'll align everything up so they
install it as soon as it comes in.
It's just a transfer, we already have the money in-house, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's park and rec fund, so it's just transferring the money from park and rec fees into the
And
project.
hopefully, we're gonna be building those up, because we have a lot of subdivisions
love
coming
that.
in. But I'm very pleased that we're finally moving forward with these projects. We've been talking about them for a while. They're all good projects, all excellent projects. We know the people in Riverhead love pickleball courts.
Yeah, it's a brand new from scratch, and like I said, we can do that now because it's going at Veterans Park, and there's nothing there, so there's
I know.
nobody who will be disturbed for them installing that. And I asked Land Tech, who is the contract on that, if they can get that done right away, and they said as soon as I get them a PO, they'll start.
What's the water at the dog park? I don't understand that.
I could talk about that.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's something
The
Catherine's
people
been
at the
asking
dog,
for.
we have two dog parks,
Okay.
we have one at Veterans Memorial Park, and there's also a dog park at Stotsky, and a lot of people go there regularly. They
They're very
are
crowded.
very well used, and there's a problem because, well, first of all, for your dogs, people have to bring water. I think they have like a bowl chained up to the fence, and the people have been asking for water there, and also,
Oh, just
it gets
running water.
running water.
Yeah, that's it.
Also,
That's
it
all
gets
we need.
muddy, and I think maybe we were even looking to get grass going in there. which was an
There's
issue.
a thing called canine grass. It's a little expensive, but that's something on our list, on our radar. It's beautiful, looks like turf grass, but it's somehow it absorbs in the pee and the other part, and but that would be,
And it doesn't turn color.
yeah, so
That's the big part of it, doesn't turn color.
we got a couple of samples in the office, but that, well, as soon as the money comes in, we'll get help.
That's something that people have really been
Yeah.
asking for. I did talk to engineering yesterday. I know they had some challenges, where to put the water there. I think they're gonna, because both of the dog parks have two different sections, so they're gonna try to put the
Yeah.
water somewhere in the middle
Drew
there.
still here?
Drew was here.
Drew.
Yep,
He's
I
gonna
said
love,
you had-
he loves
No,
this
no.
part.
right. There were
Because-
some challenges to this project, I know.
Drew
Yeah,
has
figure
agreed
it
to
out.
do that, and I really
That's good.
appreciate the fact that his department will do that, whenever he's ready. I asked him a couple months ago how much it would cost, he told me 20,000. I think he thought at that point I was gonna say, go ahead and do it right away, but now, right when he's in the middle of his busy season, I'm gonna ask him to do it. So,
Yes, he is.
we're grateful for anything that he can do, and we appreciate that.
So Ray, so basically, how much money are we talking to be moved over?
But the tan portion right there, the whole project would cost, we already have 60,000 of it in there. I
Okay.
think the remaining fee is 89,000.
Okay,
It was 109,000, and we had already moved for the signs 20,000, so there's 89,000 left in park and rec fees.
okay. So you're asking also to have the resolution possibly brought forward today?
If possible, if the town
you
board
could play with
agrees. I
times
mean,
and
I know
points.
June 2nd's coming up, so we're really just talking about a weekend here. I'm
Okay,
just
so-
saying the sooner I can get the PO, the faster they can get going,
Okay,
so.
so can you put the PO in? It's gonna take a while anyway.
I just wanna hear from Bill. Is
Yeah.
everything in place and everything's,
Yeah, if you look at the schedule Ray has distributed, that first, everything that's in phase one, he has money in his park and rec fees. Phase two, we will talk about, that depends on the American Rescue Funds. I've allocated some of that to other projects like the HVAC system here. If that all gets going, then Drew does not need any of the capital projects reserve that we brought forward. And then therefore that 120 for those capital projects can be allocated to recreation. So, the next phase, I think, Ray, you said sometime after the summer?
Yeah,
we'll
we're
do
gonna
those
wait
next
for
phases.
after Labor Day. We do not want to do any projects in the middle of
Right,
summer and
okay.
disturb the people playing at this time, so.
So we'll just keep it in line for the 6th. You have to put in the purchase order anyway, and we'll just vote it on Tuesday.
Okay, that's
We'll
fine with me. I
put
mean,
it forward.
it's really close, so I asked Bill to just have it ready.
Perfect.
But with the holiday weekend, I'm sure, and I don't know if purchasing's even in, but I'll set it all up, and
Great.
hopefully we can just line it up right then and there.
It'll be lined up,
That's
perfect.
great. And are you guys all ready for the holiday weekend?
Oh, yeah,
Got
I
all
heard
our
it's supposed to rain
beaches are
though.
open and ready?
No,
Oh,
no, no.
No, it's not, we got the B&G pulled it off, we got the new beach booths with air conditioning set up at the beaches. The beach manager, as we speak, is going down, we got the laptops from Chip and his department, so we are ready to go. Everything is electronic now with the beach stickers. I can watch it live even at my house of what is selling at what beach now.
Right,
So
because we
it's-
have the
it's great.
Wi-Fi in at those beaches now, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I was just talking to Ken about that right before I got here, so they really helped us out.
That was well received, you had a great, suggestion, and I'm happy we went forward with it.
Yeah, it was great teamwork, because Building and
Yeah.
Grounds does a wonderful job. Those booths look great. They really,
Yeah.
they're like little houses.
Good, perfect.
Okay, that's all I have.
Good, thank you, guys.
Thank
Do
you very
enjoy
much.
your weekend.
Thank you, Bill.
So I just wanted to say, Supervisor, that since Mr. Hubbard brought up the point that we don't have a work session next week, people have questions, that people, may want to know about the financing of the town square, so I think I'm fine with amending it for today. Since it's too far off, I think it's kind of a time to wait, and Bill's here, and it's a timely matter. So the rest of the board is okay with amending it? I'm
Oh,
okay
hold on,
with
let
it?
me ask for it, just, so you, I just wanna get it clear. So, it was supposed to be up, and I tried to bring it up, now you changed your mind, which is fine.
Well,
So you
no,
wanna
I
go
didn't
back to-
actually, yeah, I
You
would,
wanna go back to, you're requesting for us to amend to address it?
well, my point is,
Just so
I think.
I have it down, we have to have a proper,
My point is that without a work session next week, it might be too far off, and Bill's here, so I
okay.
don't wanna wait that long
Okay,
then.
I'll grant that, sure, absolutely, the board has no problem with that. We're all good, we're amending it? Okay, so Devin, just amend it and put it back, put it on at the end?
Welcome
Okay,
back, Bill.
welcome back, Bill,
Thank you,
sorry about
thank
that.
And Bill's here again.
Yes,
So,
so, it was brought up, let me just bring the topic up, it was brought up that there were some questions as to, the town square, we did purchase those 3 buildings. We own the 3 buildings opposite the Suffolk Theater, and, as of last Wednesday, and, 2 of them are gonna be demolished. It's gonna open up, redirect Main Street, it's gonna open up Main Street, and redirected it, that section towards the riverfront. The crafted building is gonna remain. There's a good possibility it's gonna go through a full, renovation. We are collecting, rent from those, buildings, and, this is our first significant step to, creating our town square. And, so we're here for the finances. There's been a tremendous amount of input from the public. There's been renditions, there's been breakout rooms, people have written, there's been interviews, there's been Zoom meetings. And, so that's a process that is taking place, and the entire community will be weighing on that effort, and the entire community will decide how the town square is gonna shape up. However, today we're just here specifically to address how, the finances and our vision, concerning, the purchase of the buildings.
okay. Let me just step back, because I did receive a couple of questions, so I'll start back there where the question started, and then if there's any questions that I haven't answered from the board or anyone else, then I can answer those questions.
Sure.
When we go to bond for a capital project, we do a bond authorization, the board votes on it, we have to go through a permissive referendum and estoppel periods before we can officially spend any of that money, before we have the authority to. In all the projects I'm speaking about, we've been through that process. Then the next step is, once we've spent significant money on those programs, or projects I should say, we will go out and bond. We typically don't bond more than once a year. And then when we go out and bond, we try to manage our cash, so we bond just once. And whatever bonds we're selling, those bonds are paid back from the appropriate fund that they are benefiting. So for instance, we'll say water, any water bonds that we're gonna bond in June or July are gonna be paid back next year, or 6 months later, they start getting paid the interest and then the principal from the water district, okay? The town square would be the responsibility of the general fund, okay? So when we bond this, when we sell the bonds for all of these projects, we will then pay them back from those funds, or from those particular funds. In this case, we have several different grants. We've already received $800,000 in grants that we use towards the purchase price and some soft costs, engineering and stuff like that. So we have about $5 million of bonds that we potentially have to go out and sell. We have several other grants that are on the table. A couple of them we may know in the next few weeks, some we may know in the next few months. So what we're going to do with this particular project is when we go out to sell bonds in June or July, we're going to sell what's called bond anticipation notes. And those are short-term, 1 year, and we are borrowing that money for a year's time, at which point we can either do another bond anticipation note, or if we know that's all we need to bond, we can turn them into a long-term bond, 15 years, let's say. Right now, the 15-year rate is somewhere around 1.3 to 1.5% for tax-exempt bonds. The 1-year rate for a bond anticipation note is about 0.5%. So if we do a bond anticipation note for the $5 million we need, we will pay 0.5% over the next year for that, and whatever grants we receive between now and then will offset what we actually have to take long-term bonds for. Okay, so potentially, and Dawn can talk more about the grants that are out there, potentially we don't have to bond any of this a year from now when the bond anticipation notes come due and we have to turn it into another bond. Okay? I don't know if anyone has any.
Thank you, Bill.
So Bill, what is the line that it came from?
The line that what came
The
from?
line that the money came from for the purchase?
The line is just cash. We are just loaning cash, but it's not a loan from the general fund to the general fund. We use reserves, cash reserves that we have, to pay for this until at such point we take this bond anticipation note out, and then we will replenish our cash reserves in the general fund.
And what was the amount that was taken from the cash reserve?
Well, in theory, 5.5, because we received a $5 million grant, but we're loaning the money for the $500,000 grant. We're loaning the money for the $500,000 grant also. So we paid the $5.5 million at closing. When we go and take the bond anticipation notes, we will then take a $5.5 million bond anticipation notes unless we receive the $500,000 that we've spent prior to actually taking out the bond anticipation note.
So it's all timing, not timing, but 0.5% seems like free money, really.
It really is. We've never seen them this low before, and the Fed has said that they're not going to raise them in the short term. So even taking those bond anticipation notes out for a year is something that is beneficial to the town.
Great.
It is, and the timing, and I think with COVID going back in February, when I keep on saying, when Dawn and I sat down right before COVID came out to Suffolk, and we designed, you had the money that sat there for a couple of years, and then we decided we had to use it, and it's just, in real estate, it's all about timing. And Dawn, did you want to add to?
Hello again.
Hi. Now it's good afternoon, before it was good morning.
Yes, good afternoon, Erin. So I just point out initially that grants are always a reimbursement situation. So we have to spend the money before we get it back. And that's always the way. So in order for us to purchase the properties, even if we had grant money, which we do have $1.8 million already committed in grant funds, we have to lay out the money to get reimbursed to do. So that's why the bond was necessary in the first place, but we know that we have some grant money already and we anticipate additional grant money. In addition, the board, in its wisdom, purchased all 3 properties. The third property is the 127 property. That generates a little revenue, actually rent revenue, so that will be helpful in offsetting some costs. But in addition, that property will be a property that we leverage to help build the square. So it's a public-private partnership in addition to grants. So it's not just wishful thinking. It's property that you've already acquired for the purpose of selling or long-term leasing, depending upon your ultimate decision in consultation with your financial advisors, to build a project there which will help not only create the town square, because that developer could be asked to build the town square in exchange for getting the opportunity to build at that site. So it's a combination of different things. And I think It's also important to point out that it's taxpayer money spent, if it actually is, because ultimately we could wind up spending no taxpayer money on this. But if it were to be spent on this project, it's a project actually that's for the taxpayers. So it's public space, open space, connectivity to the river, revitalization of our downtown, all for the benefit of the taxpayers. And once we get rid of that blight and that detriment to our tax base in the downtown, which is lower, our tax base is lower because the properties are blighted and we have not achieved the revitalization that we wanted, other properties' values will be elevated and we'll have more investment in the downtown. So that in turn raises the tax revenues that are received by the town. So, and I think the tax rate, the bond rate is very interesting too, because I think all of this just happened, the timing couldn't have been better. That and the Science Center purchasing their property with the same source of grant funds, and how it's all just, you know, moving in a good direction. So I hope that's helpful.
I have two quick questions, only because
Sure.
I've been asked before, and it relates to timing. The demolition period and the RFQs. Just speak to those, because I've been
Yeah.
asked, I don't know if anybody else.
And then I'll talk to you about the grants that we have on our plate coming up. So, so we have we're in the middle of, you all retained an engineer to examine the proper process for demolition, because there's a party wall there with the the Science Center building. So we have to make sure that when we demolish the buildings, all that's done correctly. And then we have to go to bid also for that part of the project. But that's a great question. We are just about to wrap up the design process for, the preliminary design has already been done. It's percolating along. We've just had a consultation with the Army Corps last week. Their issues are being factored into that design, and then ultimately we'll come up with that end design. And then I think it's going to be a conversation with you all to decide, do you want to select a master developer based on proposals? Do you want to do an RFP, RFQ, how we're going to go forward? There is going to be some time in there. So how we treat the demolition, I think, just personally, ought to take place as soon as possible, because I think the buildings being there vacant isn't a good thing to have. And also, I just think for just an appreciation of what we are doing there, it'll give us a much better idea of how it's going to look and lay out, and the connectivity to the river there. And getting rid of that blight, finally, after all these years, will be important.
The only concern that I received from the public was that we're in full event mode now.
Yes.
So how is that going to impede our future events as well?
Yes, so any events that are planned will obviously be considered in connection with that demolition. It'll be up to you when you decide to do it, based on, there's no time that you have to do it. I think, personally, the sooner the better, but, obviously those things need to be considered too.
And I think the demolition only takes a few days and everything is removed.
Yeah, we'll find out once we get the engineer's report exactly how complicated it will be and how long it will take, but that should be very soon. Expect that within the next week or two, so that'll be good to hear about. And just in terms of the grants, so right now we have 3 in the queue. One is called CFA, which is Consolidated Funding Application. That's from New York State. That is the same source that we got the $800,000 initially, and that the Science Center also got their $775,000. So that's a good indication that the state of New York is in full support of this project. That was there. Okay, here's your seed money. Go out and see what you can do with it. I think you've done a tremendous job in getting the ball moved down the field, as I like to say. And so we'll be working on that. We're actually in the process of working on that application now. They changed the deadline. It's now a rolling deadline. Used to be a submit during a certain date and a response during a certain date. So there's, I think, 20 million available in our region. So we're going to be hitting that quickly within the next week or two. The second grant application that we're also working on is one that we worked on last year, which last year was called Build 2020. It's through New York State DOT. Federal DOT.
And Congressman Selden is working with us on that.
Yes.
He is a supporter of ours, and he's written a letter in support. and,
Yes,
I
and-
wanna commend you, you guys came very close to getting it. And
Yes.
he presented it to us that last year.
Yeah.
And he's pursuing this, and I just wanna make that point, because I know his office has
Very,
spent
very supportive and helpful.
spent a lot of effort
Incredible,
working
yes.
with us and community development and trying to get this application
And putting us in
out.
contact with the right people. It was a very complicated grant application. I think we submitted ultimately like 300 pages of narrative and documentation and benefit cost analysis, very hard application to do. We're already working on this year's, it's now called RAISE 2021. The name of the grant has changed with the same,
Right.
used to be called Tiger, if you remember that.
Yes.
Real, transportation projects. Our project is an alternative transportation circuit, which connects the TOD to the downtown, so it involves all of those projects and the connectivity between them. And then lastly, we are expecting the New York State Downtown Revitalization Grant to be offered again. It is in the state budget. That was $10 million. We were finalists in 3 out of the last 4 rounds.
You're getting it.
We are closer than we've ever been before. I think we have a lot to offer in our application, and we're hoping to see that released, that date open up soon so we can submit that. So if you add those 3 up, it could be close to $40 million. That's really kind of not crazy to think about getting, because of how we've done in the past with these applications and how far this board has come in moving this project down the field with a small amount of money, and the foresight you had to bond to buy those properties and close, because without site control, there's no grants. Without site control, they're not gonna give you money. It's just a dream. You own the property now you can make the project happen. So that's all important. So hopefully that's useful.
So Dawn, certainly I've looked at the application. I actually looked at our application, I think last year or the year before, in comparison with some of the other towns. I mean, if you're just looking through the applications, we have a very strong application.
I
So
agree,
we're always
yes.
hoping to get those. So when you were referring to the reports, were you referring to the environmental inspections that had to be done?
So there were a number of different things that we need to do. We needed to do environmental inspection, and so that was lead, then we needed to do asbestos. So those 2 things were done. We also needed to do appraisals, those were done. So the $800,000 grant, $300,000 was devoted or specified or dedicated to soft costs. The $500,000 is capital. The $300,000 was used to cover any of that engineering work that needed to be done, the demo engineering work that you've retained the engineer on, that's Brunzino Engineer, or Brunzini Engineering, and Barry Long's fee for the design and anything related to that. And we also used $40,000 of that money to match the Army Corps grant. So the Army Corps is funding the lion's share of the floodplain management study that they're doing, which is absolutely incredible. The amount of data they have collected will blow your mind. It's unbelievable. And they are getting ready to come back to us again with what they've discovered. We had a pre-meeting, and they gave some preliminary information to us about a week ago. And they met with Barry Long in a Zoom call and us, and we exchanged that information, so to make sure that what we're planning and discussing meets with what the floodplain management study will recommend in the end. But $40,000 of the money from ESD for the $800,000 we used to match that grant. So we were able to get a bigger study with more information, which also includes economic and market data, which will be useful to us too.
So some of the reports, you did get some of the earlier reports you guys got already then?
Oh, yes, everything we have already received. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't have closed without the asbestos, not only being identified, tested, and,
Cleaned up.
yeah, they had to, the seller cleaned up all of that. That was very expensive and costly. It was one of the reasons the buildings couldn't get redeveloped, because they were just pretty laden with asbestos products and other issues. So we have the appraisals. Obviously, we wouldn't have been able to move forward on the purchase without any of that stuff. And then the design work that we're doing, and then subsequently, once we close, we retain the engineer to develop the demolition plan, and then we will go to bid for that demolition as soon as we get the plan and we know what it's going to say.
So can you just review the bond amount with the option now that we took the option to purchase the third building?
I'm not sure what the question is.
What would be, what would we be bonding if we don't get, are you waiting on the grants to see the total bond amount, or how does that work?
That's a Bill question, I'm gonna defer.
Thank you,
Not my
Dawn.
area, thanks.
And by the way,
Thank
I
you, Dawn.
do want to say that Dawn and Anne Marie have just been working so hard to move this forward.
I think it's really been a big team effort, and it's been,
It is a team
you
effort.
know, a lot of fun to work on, and it's gonna be a great.
A lot of hours are going into it.
It's all good.
And we just wanna add before Bill starts, that, it just recently got reported, most of it is confirmed, but, it's my understanding that most of the buildings on the south side of East Main Street are either in contract or have been sold, which is a good indicator of, a town being gentrified. Buildings have been sold, and, I think there's no buildings within a 2-block area that's up for sale. I think they're a rental because some of the people are renting them, but did you wanna add on that? Cause I know at least 4 or 5.
I'll drag this back all the way to Opportunity Zone. So,
Okay.
the board, was fortunate to, make application for and receive our federal Opportunity Zone designation in 2017. And I think, we're adding up what is being invested in the downtown, and I think it would shock you, there is a tremendous amount of money and interest in our downtown now.
Tremendous.
And I think you can attribute that largely to the impact of the Opportunity Zone, Federal Opportunity Zone, and also your investment, because when you make an investment in your property, people feel motivated and know that things will happen, and they also in turn feel confident in investing, so you brought that here too. So there are quite a number of buildings, some are the vacant buildings we would like to see redeveloped, have been purchased, I'm told. And I'm, looking forward to seeing how this project affects the rest of the downtown. Because the blighting impact, if you talk to people in our stakeholder meetings, in a number of stakeholder meetings, I think it was Joe Petroselli, I can't remember because we had like probably 20 meetings, but they talked about how people would leave the aquarium and walk downtown and get to these buildings, and because people will always walk where they have a destination or somewhere good to go. When they get to these buildings, they're like, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe, and they turn around. And so and that's why I think demoing them wouldn't be a bad thing to do right away if you could do that. But just the removal of the blight alone makes people feel comfortable and confident in making those big investments. So I think we're gonna see some very good changes in the downtown in the pretty near future.
I think you make a great point too, like they see us investing, or the town investing in itself, they feel more confident to come in and make an investment in the
Yes,
town.
well,
Yep.
Well, they have
Great
a
point.
place to go,
Progress. Yep.
they have a place to
Right.
go, something to do.
So a couple of things on that, with the buildings, I think a couple of things did work in the favor for getting those buildings moving. I know a couple of years ago, we started really leaning on some of the properties. Some of those properties no one had been into for probably 10 years. And I think it was helpful that, a couple of years ago, we started getting code enforcement in there, not just looking, but writing up violations. And some of the buildings were forced to make repairs, which was actually very costly. And I think, we did have one property owner that owned 13 buildings. And I think that helped get things moving, and then, to the point that showing we're making an investment, and when the Downtown Revitalization Committee, when I was trying to get people to invest in the pattern book, that was one thing that we were told, investing in the pattern book shows that we as a town are willing to invest in our town. And I think when these property owners also see the town making these investments, it makes them, it got things moving along. So, just wanted to make those 2 points. So Bill, just wanted you to talk a little bit about the
Let me
bonding.
just make a point.
And
Catherine, I just wanted, before you move on to the next topic, there were letters of violations, they were not court appearances, they were not summonses, and they were not violations. When a violation is issued, it's a piece of paper indicating that you are in violation of a certain code, and now you have to respond to a court or a judge or a certain jurisdictional body to address this, and usually there's some penalties. Those were letters of violations that were sent. And most of them, I know that because I know a lot of owners, they were ignored. And so I just want to clarify the difference between violations. Because code enforcement did not issue, I think it was over 100 letters that were sent to property owners, and some of them even they were returned. So it was letters, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I don't want our businesses to think that we're gonna go and issue 100 violations on Main Street. You know, code enforcement usually works with the property owners, and they try, if they're available, they can get a hold of them. And we try to work before you get to that violation level. So I'm just a little alarmed with the violation word, and I just wanted to.
Well, listen, we needed.
Is notice to correct,
No,
yes.
we needed to move things along downtown. We had landlords, people who've been here a while, can agree. Tim, I think you knew, we had landlords that were sitting on properties for a
That's
long
true.
time. Nothing was happening. It was really a very frustrating thing. So at one point, a couple of years ago, we started really leaning. And, you know, I was privy to the meetings and the emails and the they were not happy they had to repair their buildings, and in essence, I think that got things moving along. Anyway, thank you, Bill.
Okay, good.
Just
Bill?
wanted you to go over the bond a little bit, and, and with the third option in there, that now we are purchasing the third building.
We have purchased it, we own it.
Right.
Three
we-
buildings,
We own
three
it.
buildings have been purchased. Two of them are eligible for tax exempt status. One may be eligible, may not be, depending on what we do after that. So the difference between tax exempt and non-tax exempt when it comes to interest rates, what I quoted before was about 0.5% for a bond anticipation note, 1.5% for a bond itself. Those rates are more like 0.75% for a taxable bond anticipation note, and 1.75% for a taxable bond. So any grants that we get would first be applied to the taxable portion of those buildings, so we wouldn't potentially have to bond those, and we would only bond the non-taxable portion. How much of it is going to be taxable versus non-taxable? There's a 90% threshold. We have to use 90% of those assets have to be used for governmental purposes, and you can have a 10% or less amount that can be used for something other than governmental. It could be whether we're collecting rent in there until we get the tenants out or whatever it may be. So that will all be managed when we know what grants we have, and we will apply the grants to if we have any taxable portion of those bonds.
So you're waiting to see what grants come in, and at that point, then we decide about the
Yes.
funding.
So we will take a BAN again for 12 months, and 12 months from June, when we know more what's going on, we can extend that bond anticipation note for another 12 months. Hopefully, we know by then how much we need to bond versus how much grants we have.
Thank you, Bill.
And the good thing is, we might not have to bond, which is,
That would be great.
yeah, we're hoping to lead in that direction. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Dawn, for all your work in this regard. Quite complicated when you're trying to work with the real estate, taking a risk, looking at the bond market, looking at our bond rating, and there's a lot of different components, and Anne Marie also working on the legal component, and again, thank you for this, moving it forward. In a moment, I'm gonna ask you to enter into an executive session, and we're gonna discuss the following items. Oh, resolutions. Oh, okay. How can we not forget this pile? It's right here.
I did just want to mention Devin's handing out a correction on item number 14 on the resolution list. We had a
Okay.
snafu within our minute track system, so what she's handing out
Saw
is the
that.
correct copy.
Okay.
So,
There was the title for one resolution, but the body of it
Yes.
was another resolution.
that's
I was
exactly,
gonna ask about
that
that.
exactly right. And I sent you about 15 emails apiece, so I'm hoping that you've got the most recent one in your hands. Thank
Yes,
you.
we do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
And the day's still early.
Is this gonna be in sequence?
Yes.
So you can just swap out the one I
Yeah, it's gonna be in sequence, okay. We're not gonna add it, okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody ready?
Just give us 1 second, let me put them in order, so we can, and I think, Tim, you're up with it?
I'm up.
You're up? Everybody's up? Okay, we're good to go. All right, Devin, can you please read the resolutions for today?
Okay, resolution number 1, approve special event, chapter 255 application for race track, not street at EPCAL Drag Racing Series. Yeah, and for this, I just would want to see any amended reports, the amended,
They were sent to Ryoga.
good. If there's any others, I mean, I saw that. All right, thank you. Resolution number 2, amends resolution number 244-2021 and approves chapter 255 special event application for Scramble Runway Challenge drag racing event. Date changes to September 25th and September 26th, 2021.
Can I just speak for a moment on that? So, this is, we've been talking to Andre Baxter regarding Scramble on the last few days. He is off, very concerned about safety and everything, so he has been amending his application as we go along, providing us with all, any requirements from the police department, the fire department, traffic study, safety. Also environmental concerns, he wanted to address as well, so he was concerned about, even though he was gonna provide all proper fencing, and I have confidence in him, but to reassure the community, environmental concerns, he's agreed to move his dates so that we're outside of the DEC nesting season, where, again, it ends at August 16th. Mr. Scalzo has his events already, those dates were already kind of listed within his proposal. So, so he has agreed to change his date, so that's part of amending the whole resolution, but he also amended his application. And so he has addressed first the environmental concerns, so he goes outside of nesting season. He's also decreased his half-mile track so that he won't have the same high speeds that were a concern.
Okay.
And so address that. He has been speaking to at length with Riverhead Ambulance and Manorville Fire Department, so he's working with them as well as Lieutenant Frost here at our police department regarding the traffic situation and just to make sure that everything is smooth. So I'm gonna also just take a moment to commend Andre Baxter, who has been communicating with all facets, and he's worked diligently with our town attorney this week, and just to make sure that he also has, carefully listened to the citizens and the concerns that were brought up in our last meeting. I think he's adequately addressed all of them, and I feel confidence that we're on the right track with this. And so his application has been amended so that, just to make sure that everyone is comfortable to move forward.
Are the number of spectators the same, Ken?
No, the spectators, though, clarification, so his spectators and the application shows a maximum of 1,000, but it's not just spectators within that 1,000, also includes any drivers, any staffing personnel. So he's stating that there will not be more than 1,000 people, on the property.
And that's including the drivers and
Yes,
people
that's,
working?
yep.
So he is on the right track.
Yes, he is. He's
Oh,
on the
you
right
were-
No pun intended.
Possibly two.
Ken was
Oh, okay.
But
It wasn't as good as
Frank was-
high, but.
And I think that both these ventures, they are separate ventures, but I think they're working off of and learning from each other as well. And I think it's impressive that they're committed to providing a safe venture here, and I firmly believe that. And they've brought in the environmental concerns as well. So I just want to let everybody know, if somebody's saying, why are we discussing, I've gotten lots of phone calls, why are we discussing Scramble again? I think he wanted to, there were requests to amend his application to clarify it. I think he's done that very well with the new amended application. He's been working all week with the town attorney, myself, and I think we're comfortable now, so.
And I think that EAF had to be amended, correct?
I don't know.
All right.
I'll let
We
Bob.
can check on that.
But Bob, if you would
So
want to say if there was any
they
concerns, I
are-
think we're.
Okay, so you'll say
Go
that
ahead.
much when we use, but which is fine. They're not necessarily separate, they're related. So they're racing in EPCAL, which is good. But they should
Similar
be treated
ventures.
separately, would
Correct.
you agree? They
Yeah,
should
these
be
are-
treated separately.
Yes.
And I like the idea that we have the expert coming in first, which I think you had shared that.
I
and-
think they're both very knowledgeable.
And
they're-
there's still, we still have to add to, there might be some adjustments, as with any resolution, but at the time that they are voted on, which they should be on Tuesday, if there's any amendments or any additional, components that we have to address, we could still address them. Because especially when it's, August, what, 21st is the first race? So we still have time to, because sometimes if an issue arises, we might not have time to do it over Labor Day weekend. So we still have room to ensure that, we take care of all the safety components.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I commend our town attorney's been doing a great job working with them along.
Yes.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Devin?
Okay, resolution number 3 authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for sporting goods. Number 4 authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites as authorized under Cannabis Law Article 4 and on-site consumption sites in town of Riverhead. Number 5 authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for truck parts. Number 6 authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for Ford automotive parts. Number 7 authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for automotive parts. Number 8 appoints seasonal summer recreation staff to the Recreation Department. Number 9 authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for bid for map of country trails road improvements. Number 10 ratifies authorization for supervisor to execute an amended professional services agreement with Urban Design Associates, Ltd. Number 11 sets salaries for 2021 seasonal personnel for the Riverhead Recreation Department. Number 12 appoints a seasonal registered nurse to the Riverhead Recreation Department. Number 13 adopts local law to amend Chapter 301-305 of the Town Code. Can someone explain this one to me? Oh, wait, Greg is here, I'm
but it's
sorry.
from the
not
public
that
hearing
one,
in
yeah.
March.
No, not this, I meant the next one.
Okay. Number 14 ratifies authorization for supervisor to execute a professional services agreement with Mason Haas.
Because my numbers actually changed, so I actually want clarification on this
So
one.
that's the one we just redistributed?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 15, so do you
I
need?
just wanted
Oh, I thought
to
you
know
meant
what
about
it
the
was,
numbers.
that's
Okay.
all.
Done?
In connection with the RAISE 2021 grant, we have to complete a submission called a benefit cost analysis. Last year, we hired Martin Cantor, and you hired him again to help this year. It's a very complicated economic analysis, and it involves extrapolating future potential tax revenue. So last year, Mr. Haas helped us from the assessor's office when he was here. This year, the assessor's office was unable to help us. They're extremely busy and short-handed, and so we asked him again. He offered to do it. We have the money available through Community Development Block Grant funds, the same funds that we're using to pay Mr. Cantor. So it's a small component of that benefit cost analysis. That is a critical part of the application and needs to be done, so that's why we did that.
All right, thank you, Dawn.
Yep, sure.
And just to add to that, this is a very specialized field where you have to project taxes
Yes.
and put in inflation, all types of different rates, and you have to adjust. So it's a very specialized field, and it's only a one-time effort, and at the moment, we don't have anybody to do that, and I know from putting in for millions of dollars of grants in the police department, and working on grants for our efforts, we need your cost-benefit analysis. It's a CBA. Without a CBA, the grant pretty much goes nowhere.
Well, it's certainly mandated for this grant, and it has
It is
very,
mandated.
very specific requirements of what they want to see and how they want to see it. And it's beyond our ability. You really need an economist to do it, but in addition, you need someone that can predict the taxes, who understands
Right.
what the situation is here too. So that's why we
Okay.
did that. All right?
Good, thank you, Dawn. Devin, can you continue, please?
Number 15 authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with Allways Elevator Inc. for elevator maintenance and service at the George Young Community Center. 16 authorizes publication of a help wanted advertisement for Justice Court Director. Number 17 appoints members to a committee to review transit-oriented development submissions.
Just on this one, I would suggest some diversity on there. Number 18, authorizes the Recreation Department to extend the contract nunc-pro-tunc with Alert Media, Inc. Number 19, secret classification and lead agency request for the adoption of a draft local solid waste management plan update 2020-2029. Just wondering why this still says draft. Draft. Once we're adopting it, we're not adopting the final one?
That's on the engineer.
That was good.
Sorry, Drew.
The final one does get a resolution, that's gonna be when the.
Maybe you should say that to Bob's mic so people can hear. You don't have to come all the way up here.
The final swamp is reviewed by the DEC after we incorporate comments from the public comment period, which ends the 29th. So once we incorporate those comments, we send it back to DEC. The DEC reviews it. We address any further comments. It goes to the board for resolution, and we adopt it. This current resolution isn't for adopting the draft now, is it? No, it's different.
It's for you to start the process.
Yeah, it actually, it says secret classification and lead agency
Yes.
request.
Right, it's secret. Jeff
Okay,
is
so
gonna
then,
take
I
care of that.
understand. Thank you, Drew. Number 20, authorizes the supervisor on behalf of the Riverhead Water District to execute a professional service agreement with Mark Conklin. 21, schedules public hearing date for the site plan amendment application of Island Water Park, 5835 Middle Country Road, Calverton, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-135-1-7.34. Number 22, authorizes the renaming of a portion of Marcy Avenue, Riverhead, New York.
Here we
That makes
come,
my heart
Ziggy.
feel good.
Yes, Ziggy, we're finally gonna name your street.
Yep.
Well deserved, well honor, we still miss him.
23, appoints new seasonal beach attendants to the Recreation Department. 24, terminates a part-time employee. Number 25, authorizes the supervisor to execute a contract for payments in lieu of taxes pilot with Long Island Solar Generation LLC, Nextera. Number 25, ratifies authorization for the supervisor on behalf of the Riverhead Water District to execute a professional service agreement with Thomas Kruger. Number 27, authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement authorizing the town to accept funds from Suffolk County Office for the Aging to supplement the town's expanded in-home services for the elderly program.
I just wanna add that, our senior center has done such a great job with our seniors, especially under COVID. And, we put in for, extended, funds for the Meals on Wheels. They were granted to us under COVID, and now I understand that they kept the extended funds. So it's an indicator of us running really good programs, that we're able to get additional funds under COVID, and even now, as we move away, that they're maintaining. And, it's great to see that we can continue working with them.
Just back on the pilot agreement, that talks about 30 years. I was wondering what happens after 15 years.
Where's,
All
Cos?
Pilot agreement?
Pilot agreement under 487 is for a 15-year duration, statutory,
Okay. And what happens at 15 years?
becomes taxable.
Okay, got it. Number 28, appoints a wastewater treatment plant operator 3A. 29, accepts the resignation of a planning aide. 30, approves a leave of absence request. Number 31, awards bid for corrosion control chemicals PO4. Thirty-two, authorizes the chief of police to execute an affiliation agreement with the University of New Haven. 33, approves transfer of funds for the Suffolk County fiscal year 2019 Community Development Block Grant funds. 34, authorizes submission of letter of intent and execution of contract by the supervisor for operation and maintenance grant program to New York State
Environmental Facilities Corporation, EFC. 35, appoints a seasonal lifeguard to the Recreation Department. 36, authorizes application for funding through the U.S. Department of Transportation Build 2020 grant. 37, authorizes the purchasing agent to purchase landmark sign for Belltown Heritage Area.
Is that concluded? Perfect, thank you, Devin. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Call our office if you need anything, as always, and, if you need anything, if you have any questions about opening up town, we're always available in the office. Give us a call. We'll hope to see a lot of you during the Memorial Day Parade. It's actually the start of our reopening. I feel like that's gonna be the marker for us. Again, be safe, and in a moment, I'm gonna ask you to go into executive session to discuss the following items. Matters surrounding a leave of absence request, matters surrounding the change of status of an employee, matters surrounding the change of status of 2 employee stipends, and lastly, on personnel, matters surrounding the hiring of an employee. And then we're gonna move on to contractual, 1 item, matters surrounding the possible acquisition, lease of real property, and that would be Hubbardston McCormick. Can I have a first and a second to go into executive session, please?
Make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved, and be safe, and thank you, and enjoy your weekend.